molecules to go down, not a helium balloon. The helium molecules themselves without a balloon.
At the pressure where there is, let's say, 50 molecules for sure.
No, I said what pressure does the chamber have to be for the molecules themselves to no longer travel in every direction and equalize the chamber, but go down in layer? Because that's what you're claiming is happening.
So at that point, when they actively stop hitting each other because the probability of their collision is too low.
You could have them. You could have a very like little helium, and it could still be like equalized.
Okay, listen. In a vacuum chamber, if you have a feather, it falls because it's made of atoms and they have mass.
Yo, I don't think
if you have a feather which is made out of 3 atoms, it falls because those 3 atoms have mass. If you have just one fucking atom in a vacuum chamber, it falls because that one atom has mass. Your 50 atoms in the vacuum chamber all have mass. They will all fall, just like the feather and the bowling ball.
Yeah, but you realize the vacuum chamber is not a vacuum chamber. It's an air chamber with very little pressure. So there's air in it.
That's where you fucking fuck up.
Really? There's no air in
because the air chambers are not described in terms of 50 molecules per a kilometer long chamber.
It doesn't matter. It depends on the pressure. So there's no perfect vacuums.
And the formulas in the physics and in the physics books, formulas explicitly fucking state that there are limits to when you can apply them.
Again, it's just a chamber with less air. So what does the pressure have to be for the helium molecules to go below the little air molecules that are there? Does that make sense to you?
Listening.
No, because again, the chamber is filled with, it has a little bit of air, and you're saying the helium is going to be at the bottom. So somehow it's going to go in the place of the air. The air, which is more dense, is going to go on top of the helium. Is that what you're saying?
You're talking about a vacuum chamber, not a gas chamber. Do you understand the difference?
It's a chamber with less air. It still has air. It's just a very, very little amount.
It has very different properties than a chamber with less thick air.
It doesn't matter. It's not a perfect vacuum, so there's air there.
You can't be this fucking stupid. You can't treat vacuum as a chamber of thin air.
You're saying helium is going to layer below air. That's how retarded you are.
Bro, I don't know why they won't admit things don't fall at the same rate in a vacuum. Like you'd have to deny this drag equation thing.
The drag equation can't be applied to the vacuum chamber. Read the fine print of every physics book.
Jeremy,
these are the proponents of science, Jeremy. These are the proponents of science.
And you're failing the fucking 5th grade.
Air in the chamber. Come on.
I mean, where the fuck in the physics book did you read that you can apply a drag equation in the vacuum chamber?
Is there drag in a chamber that has less air, but air nonetheless?
It's not. It's a vacuum chamber. It has different properties, you idiot.
You are not a scientist. You are not like a physically scientific at all.
To what effect percentage? When you say that.
You can't use the drag equation when you have that much free. The path length is that big.
So over time, theoretically, they would fall at different rates. Agree or disagree?
Quantify do you agree? Hold on.
Why do you need him to quantify it? You act like that wouldn't be the case.
Scale time.
Right. Percent. Do you agree that the property of a gas is that the molecules interact with one another by colliding with one another?
It depends on the pressure.
What?
So if you have very, very, very little gas, if it's like, almost a perfect vacuum, then, and depending on the volume, there might not be enough space for them to collide with each other.
No. Okay, so if you just have a fucking bunch of random molecules not interacting with each other in any way and just flying away from each other at certain distances, would you agree that that is not a fucking gas then?
No, they would interact with each other, but they wouldn't collide with each other depending on how.
Would you mind looking at the definition of gas then?
How do you have a pressure without a collision? Tell me that.
They try to equalize, right? So they're going to be.
How do you have pressure without a collision?
I mean, ideally, like initially, when you're spilling it,
How do you have pressure without a collision?
when you're like introducing
How
the
do you have pressure without a collision?
but then they're gonna
How
strive
do you
to
have
equalize
pressure
pressure,
without a
and they're
collision?
gonna if there's not enough to
Can you answer the
like
question?
fill the space, then they're gonna all have their own little
Can you
How do
area
you have
answer the
pressure without a
question?
collision?
theoretically.
How do you have pressure without a collision?
You understand what I just said?
No, you're not making any sense.
I said if there's very, very little gas, as in it's almost a perfect vacuum. You're just introducing barely any within this volume at the nozzle or whatever, where you're
Gas
introducing gas,
anymore.
they'll be colliding with
How do
each
you
Stop
have
other.
calling
pressure
it
Then they're
gas.
gonna
without a
disperse.
collision?
Then
The
they're gonna
answer is
disperse
you
and
can't.
equalize.
Stop.
So if there's not enough to equalize, where they're like where it's what's called where they're not colliding with each other, then they're just going to be they're not going to be colliding with each other. They're just going to spread out as much as they can.
You're clueless. Pressure is specifically attributed.
For the maps.
You heard what I said? Pressure is exclusively and absolutely attributed to the collisions of air molecules with each other. Without a collision,
Give me
there is
$5.
force. Without no force, there is no pressure.
I know you ain't got $5.
Okay, so if you don't have enough gas being introduced, then you're not going to have it's not going to register as pressure
In
change.
Real world. Let's go real world here. We have a bunch of gas in a chamber, and we bring that chamber down to near absolute zero. So the molecules are not even moving. Is there pressure?
Where the molecules are what?
Are not moving. If we bring something as close to absolute zero as possible, with as little air in there or any kind of gas in there to begin with as possible, what would happen to the pressure as I brought that chamber to near absolute zero?
Is the pressure at zero? Is it a perfect vacuum?
Near absolute zero.
No, but is it zero? Is it a perfect vacuum or not?
It's not.
Oh, you said real world, so I guess not. There's no
real world
perfect vacuum. Yeah, okay.
So is there any pressure? So would
There'd be very, very little pressure.
Where would the pressure be?
The molecules would be moving slowly, and since there is some pressure showing, that means that there would be some.
How do you know this pressure is showing?
You just said that. You just said that. Well, I mean, you said it's real world, so it's not a perfect vacuum. So there's going to be some pressure.
Stop it. You think there's a gauge in there that's measuring some kind of pressure?
It doesn't matter. You said it's not a perfect vacuum, so there is some pressure.
You don't understand. I'm going to give you a quick education on how you measure pressure in a vacuum chamber. You don't know, do you?
Of course I do.
You don't know how you measure pressure in a pressure chamber, in a vacuum chamber.
You do, with a
How
gauge.
do you measure it? Yes, I do. I'll tell you in a second, but I want to hear from percentage that he doesn't.
You measure it with a gauge.
Chemo, we've come to the conclusion that things don't all fall at the same rate in a vacuum.
You don't. You're still not getting it. You don't.
You're not getting it.
Gauge attached to some chamber, like the molecules are bouncing off the gauge and measuring a pressure.
We got him, Chemo. We got him.
You're gonna be weirdly awakened here in a second.
This is our year. I'm telling you, you guys are sleeping.
Listen,
laugh all you want.
We have a chamber.
You're getting rocked right now.
Jeremy, stop
Jeremy,
talking.
let me make it clear. I am laughing at you. I just want to make that clear.
So, Jeremy, we have
You're wrong.
10 to the minus 10, and we bring that chamber down to near absolute zero. As we can get. It's not going to be absolute, but it's going to be pretty close. How do we measure the pressure in that chamber? Give me a couple examples of how you would think you would do it.
You measure pressure with a gauge, bro. In the real world, that's how they do it.
What kind of gauge?
An altimeter, pressure gauge,
Altimeter,
barometer.
Okay, I have altimeter. I have gauge. Any other answers?
Barometer.
Barometer.
You're dancing around the fact that.
Give me 5 examples.
No.
So I can show you how stupid.
Stop gatekeeping, Danik. Get to your fucking point.
You're dancing around the fact that the longer you make the vacuum tube, the different.
Jeremy, stop white knighting.
It's not like a bicycle tire.
What do you mean white knighting? I started this.
On a vacuum
No,
chamber.
you're trying to say percent. Let him.
I started this.
What? He doesn't need any saving.
Percentage doesn't need saving. He's probably better at me than this point.
You're absolutely
Well,
right. You're absolutely right. Percentage can't be saved.
No, he doesn't need to be saved. He's got you. He's got you right where he wants you. Who's laughing like an idiot?
Me laughing at you, you idiot.
Okay, we have a chamber. It's brought down to 10 to the minus 10 vacuum. We want.
How'd you measure that?
How do we do it?
How'd you measure that? It's brought down to 10 to the minus 10.
Barometer. I heard altimeter. I heard pressure gauge.
Zanik, you just said it's at 1 times 10 to the negative 10. How'd you measure that?
That's what he's asking you, dipshit. Pay attention.
I'm asking you that question.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that measurement's correct. You're the one that claims it.
This is a red herring.
This is very correct. It's very accurate.
Okay, how'd you measure it?
Big red
Well, let me give you a clue, and you can bring one more answer.
You gotta start recognizing the fallacies better.
Hold on. It's not chemo. I'm talking. It's not an altimeter.
It doesn't matter, Zanuck.
Can I finish a sentence?
No, it doesn't matter.
It's not a barometer. Again, you can't help yourself. Okay, you know what? Go think of it yourself.
His point is, Spurs, is that Percentage doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and he's exposing it right now. Please
let him try, bitch.
Exactly. You have no clue what you're talking about. I know in your mind how you're thinking. I pressure. I get.
Hold up, Zanuck. You said real world, right? Show me in the real world where we got a vacuum chamber, or where we got the pressure 1 × 10 to the -10. Show me in the real world, please.
That is the actual environment that is in reality. We have in the semiconductor business, we do have chambers where we sputter magnetic material.
In what business?
In the semiconductor materials world.
Huh? Semiconductors. Semiconductors at 1 × 10 to the -10?
Yes.
Really?
That doesn't sound right.
You know anything about anything, Percentage?
Could be, but.
So in these chambers, we need to get these sputter material. In order to create the constructs on top of the silicon substrate, you need to have everything removed from this sputtering chamber, whether it be magnetic material or vapor, whatever you want to deposit on this particular substrate. You need it to be as close to the vacuum as possible. And so this 10 to the -10 is where they get in some of the extreme vacuum conditions. They measure.
I'd like substantiation on that claim.
They don't use a barometer. They don't.
No. Can you substantiate that first before you move forward?
What's that?
That the semiconductor chambers are at 1 × 10 to the -10 torr.
Yes. What do you want? You want a citation? You want a citation?
No, ideally, you'd have a reading of that. How they measure that?
I did this side. I'm shutting all my doors. I did this side of the hallway. Shut it up. Shut it up. Shut it down.
Having any clue about how you
Zanuck, how they measure the semiconductor chamber pressure?
I'm trying to get
Lock it up.
I'm trying to tell you first that you don't know what.
My bad. My bad. Don't mute me. I'll go on mute.
You're just gonna talk over me. Okay. If you do that, I'm not gonna answer you.
Relax. I was hot mic and I'm going on mute.
Not knowing how they do this.
The guy's spiraling, man.
Not a gauge.
Zanuck, you made a claim that they're measuring the semiconductor pressure at 1 × 10 to the -10, and you said that that's a real world example. So please substantiate that.
You want me now to substantiate?
I would like I would like them to see how they measured it. You know, some sort of gauge, I imagine, right? Analog or digital doesn't make a difference to me.
Dunning-Kruger boy, you seem to think you know everything. I'm trying to expose.
Wow, this guy's getting triggered or something.
Yes, it is true. So the value 10 to the -10. All you have to do is look up.
It's your burden of proof, bro. Just provide it, please.
What do you want me to do? Bring a vacuum chamber to
the measurement, a video, ideally, of them measuring a semiconductor chamber, measuring the pressure of a semiconductor chamber, and it showing the reading showing 1 × 10 to the -10 torr.
Right, and it's not a valve. It's not an altimeter, as you said. It's not a barometer. There's actually a technique you use to measure. Okay, if you're gonna laugh, I'm not gonna. You.
Look, he's trying to find it out. Don't laugh, Chemo. Don't laugh, Chemo. He'll use that as a scapegoat.
No, I have the answer.
You're welcome to what
I know. Maybe even
shout it out so people take note. $10 to the -13th, bitches.
I have the answer. I'm just enjoying the squirming on your side. There's a lot of projection going on here. I know you don't know. I know how you measure pressure. I know that this pressure is due to collisions of molecules or atoms. You don't know. They're not measured with an altimeter or barometer or a gauge. Okay? Let's just get that straight.
So how do they measure it, Zanuck? Again, we'd like substantiation for the claim where in semiconductor chamber pressure, it's 1 × 10 to the -10
I
torr.
don't know. And I want you, Zanuck, please tell me. I'm interested.
Yeah, Zanuck, please tell me. Please show me your your evidence, your substantiation for this claim.
Evidence?
I'd like the reading. I don't care how they measure it. I'd like to see the reading right now.
You want the explanation? You want the
No, I don't want the explanation. I want the actual definitive evidence. So I want a video of them measuring it.
So what will qualify as evidence?
A video of them measuring it.
You want a video of them measuring it?
Yes.
I might be able to provide that. I've seen it measure, so I can probably, if I find a video of that, I can probably do it.
Chemo, we got him, bro. It's over.
Got nothing.
It's over for him.
I'm enjoying this.
See what?
I can't see much things.
Yeah, see, one of the biggest issues with these with globe earthers, is that they just make claims. They just constantly make claims, and we don't hold them accountable for their claims.
10 to the negative 13th on Earth. 10 to the negative 13th on Earth.
Is that what he said? It's misconduct.
That's what I said.
Chamber?
10 to the negative 13th on Earth.
Okay, that's not what he said, though. That's not the claim that he made.
What?
Even if you can get something down to that. The thing is,
I don't
even
give
if
a
you can
fuck
get...
about Zanuck.
Well, you obviously do because you're trying to save him right now.
Kirby
No,
got it.
I'm showing you that there's 10 to the negative 13th there with back arrow, and I provided a link to the website where they say that.
All right. Well, what's the strongest
they just
vacuum
claim
that
it.
we've dropped something in? Why don't we use that since that's what we were talking about now?
Why don't you provide some kind of reason to think that the piddly little amount of air molecules in a 100-foot tall or whatever vacuum chamber at 10 to the negative 6 even would show a measurable reduction in the rate of fall of one of the objects?
The longer you make the vacuum tube, the more of a differential you're going to have. between
Jeremy,
the
you're
feather
done
and the
with
bowling
that.
ball.
Jeremy, no, we're
Do you not
specifying
agree?
here.
Do you not
I'm
agree?
specifying.
Curve, do you not agree?
To what level? If you're talking about less than a nanosecond of difference, I don't know that that's not true. I don't know what impact a single air molecule will have on whatever particular object you're talking about and how many it might encounter, although it should be very few. My point is, you guys are literally trying to make a mountain out of a plank length size grain of sand.
Yo, Curves, can I get some substantiation on this times 10 to the negative 13 Tor claim?
I gave it to you in the chat. I posted the quote twice, and I posted the fucking link.
Yeah, it's just the claim. The lowest.
And if I don't give a fuck, oh no, I'm not a hoop jumper, bitch. You got that?
Okay, so you admit that you're just making a claim.
You're like a little child and deny all this shit all you want to. That's fine in my book. I'm happy with that because it
on the same
makes
page,
you
Curve.
appear like the piece of shit that you are.
Perfect. As long as you we're on the same page that this is just the claim, a reassertion of the claim. Right? Not even a reassertion. This is the only assertion of the claim that you've presented so far. So there's no evidence here. There's no substantiation. There's no definitive empiric evidence that this actually is a thing.
Stop pretending.
As such, the claim is discarded.
Disingenuous piece of shit. The only thing you demonstrate is what a fucking lying mong you are. So
no, I demonstrated that you just made a claim right now and you had no substantiation, so your claim is discarded. Thank you very much.
Everybody knows. Well, no, I can't say that. I can't say everybody knows what you're doing.
In that case, we can.
Everybody wants to fucking run around in circles with you about every other goddamn rabbit hole you try to take them down to avoid the fact that you can't substantiate this stupid fucking claim about the difference in the fall rate because of a couple stray fucking molecules.
Okay, is the moon or the Earth, or do we have any celestial bodies slowing down because of the drag that they're hitting the gas molecules at in space?
Yeah, we do.
What was that
That's
question
an even
again,
bigger
Jeremy?
vacuum.
Jeremy, what's the question?
According to their model, we do, Jeremy. According to their model, even the satellites have drag.
It's a rhetorical question.
Before you go down that
it's a rhetorical question,
Jeremy, I would like to ask how you think. Now, you think a moon is hitting a few atoms and is slowing down because of that, even though these atoms are also rotating in an orbit just like the moon. Now, you know that there are such things as asteroids and comets that hit the moon on a regular basis. Now, do you think those affect its speed way more than your few air molecules?
All right, let's ask Rocket if he has drag on satellites.
I'm asking you to see your thinking process.
We need to ask the professionals, so that way we know how things move in a vacuum if we have to account for the drag or not.
Do you think that an asteroid that hits a moon is going to have more an impact than 1,000 years of fucking travel?
Mark, are you there?
Jeremy, don't do that, okay?
Drag on satellites, bro.
You want to respond to you? Call me on screen name. Don't fucking do that
Rocket.
games that Eagle does, okay?
I don't know why he calls you Mark. Does it make you mad? My bad.
No, it annoys me. It's just annoying because I actually think that you have some sense, much better than Eagle. So cut it out.
Well, do we have?
And yes, satellites are subjective to atmospheric drag. But things in a vacuum chamber on Earth are not moving as fast as what a satellite does. So
in a
it's not a fair comparison.
In a vacuum with less gas molecules, we're getting drag.
Sounding great,
right? Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, now in the vacuum of space, we have a way less vacuum than we make on Earth, and we drop things on Earth, yet we still have drag, right?
Jeremy, I'm talking about low Earth orbit. We're talking about 450 kilometers to 500 kilometers. Those are the satellites that I'm talking about. When you start going further out when you start talking like the GPS satellites, you actually don't even worry about drag. When you're at geostationary, you don't worry about drag.
Do they not say there's drag on the moon or the Earth slowing these celestial bodies down, or no?
Not here. My question.
It depends on the context of what you're talking about. Yeah, shut up, you stupid little bitch laugh in the background.
Sure, a couple of years ago, they said the Earth's atmosphere, the hydrogen and helium molecules go out to the moon.
They lost.
And those probably don't hit.
Do you know what the parts per million of that is? Like, it's so ridiculously
It would
small.
cause drag with a moon moving.
Realize that they orbit the Earth.
Serious?
Like the fucking moon.
They're losing it.
Yeah, the effect of that atmosphere on the the moon's orbit would be something on the order of billions of years. You'll be lucky if you get an inch over a billion years. That's my
guess. Given a long enough vacuum, so given a long enough vacuum, things wouldn't fall at the same rate. We agree, right?
So you need a vacuum chamber long enough so that you can calculate the fall over a billion years then?
So do we agree that things don't fall the same rate in vacuums, or no?
For fuck's sake.
Two different things would never, ever, ever fall at the same rate.
If we let something fall for that long in a vacuum, would we have the feather falling at the same time?
Are you saying there's a measurable difference?
Over however many years he just said, yeah, there's a measurable difference.
How about in the NASA vacuum chamber that you guys began with that had us?
It's not long enough. It's not long enough.
Oh, no. You claimed we were afraid to show that because it would show that it doesn't fall at the same rate.
I never said that.
Okay, then.
I'm saying you guys aren't using vacuum chambers that are high enough, because then we would learn that things don't.
So your argument is solely all about something that can never be demonstrated.
Of course it can. It's demonstrated in air.
There's no way that we could set up something to prove one way or the other what you're saying. You've made it unfalsifiable. Is that correct?
We could demonstrate it. We could just add more gas molecules and see what would happen over a shorter distance. And we find out that things don't fall at the same rate.
In a demonstration that can't be created?
Yes, you can recreate that easily. You can do it in that vacuum chamber. You just increase.
What vacuum chamber?
For more pressure.
What vacuum chamber?
The chamber with air in it that they dropped the
which one?
bowling ball and the feather, the BBC one.
No, Jeremy said no, not that one.
At that pressure, but you could increase more pressure.
Jeremy said no, not that one.
I'm sure Jeremy would agree. If you increase more pressure, then you can appreciate a change. For instance, if it was just regular air, atmospheric pressure,
You'll get
you
to
would,
where,
you would see a change.
Are you that stupid? Why am I
Apparently you are,
talking to you idiots? Fuck this.
Because we're winning. Timo, we're winning. They're getting mad.
Only in your head, Jeremy.
All we do is win, 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 no matter what. Got flatness
Tell 'em,
on our
Lemon.
minds. We can never give it
Talk
up.
to him. Talk to him, Lemon.
But the transition is very rough because they wanted to have this pagan Greek ball.
Guys, I got a joke real quick. Why should you never do calculus while having a glass of wine?
Of course.
Why is that?
Never like you've ever done calculus. Man.
Because you shouldn't drink and derive. Like
Oh, that's precious.
Other than, of course, your failure with the gravity gun percentage. Other than your failure with the gravity gun percentage, obviously, if we can measure it at just 2 different pressures, we can get a result that will extrapolate to the actual 0, and thus get to our 9.8 meters per second squared. So
You want to shoot you with a Gauss gun and then deny that the fucking gravity exists. When your fucking head explodes all over the wall. Oh, gravity doesn't... no, you won't be able to speak, will you? Because your head will be gone.
We're using the gravitational acceleration to deny gravity. You know, it's...
A lot of people do that. They deny gravity, and then when it fucking grabs hold of them and slams them on the fucking floor and they bounce off the concrete. Oh, there is gravity! Fuck me, yeah, that hurts, doesn't it?
It's literally agreeing to the 9.8 and then saying...
I didn't agree to the 9.8.
Something else. Yes, there is something else.
How about this? For the sake of argument, I'll say, hypothetically, if we did have a perfect vacuum, that things would fall at the same rate.
Maybe.
I would concede that. No, they probably would.
Most likely.
There is a downwards bias. So you're done.
But guess what? That's a complete hypothetical because we don't have a perfect vacuum. We never will. Ever.
It's a semi-permeable system.
Never have a perfect
at the same time.
You're done. That was it. Bye-bye.
Shit's got to get in and out, you know.
You concede there can't be an example, yet you demand one.
Dyson written on the side of it, you nugget. What do you mean a fucking vacuum?
It's got to have a little bit of ether. It's got to.
Yo, guys, let's be honest and not even call it vacuum because they always say there aren't any vacuums, just a low pressure environment, right? That's what they always say. So how about this? How about we just say it's a low pressure air chamber?
Well, what is between these atoms that they're talking about? But ether, is it empty space or is it ether?
Oxygen? Ether is air. It's
The ether is the substance of space.
Show me how there's no air resistance in a low pressure air chamber. Good luck.
Now, the ether of space could be like a particle atom. Maybe it's just this fluid. Who knows?
I can tell you about.
It's a magical, dynamic, fucking electrical,
measure
fucking
that.
magnetic property that everything interacts with. The vibrates.
You gotta have something between the atoms. You got to.
Maybe it all vibrates at a specific frequency, and if we tap into that frequency, we can harness that energy.
Yeah, dude.
It just helps to think of something between the atoms, something to fill the space other than nothing, which is, absurd.
Light. That's all that fills the spaces. The atomic particle lines, and they're all bending in different directions.
The ether, the substance of space.
As well as the fucking different, like magnetic pulls and pushes from other planets.
Yes.
We dance around the sun in an oval sort of like arc. The sun wobbles as well with us, and we dance around in an oval fucking dance.
Do we? No. Of course it has air in it. There is no such thing as an absolute vacuum, as a mathematical thing.
And other gases.
Chemo, you see,
Hydrogen.
when I defeated shut up, damn it. When I defeated him with the gravity gun yesterday, I clearly told him, take that chamber. You put your little things you want to see if they fall or not. On scales in a box.
It's crummy.
Fire them upwards, and then you weigh them. And as those scales go to 0, when that little thing there is accelerating downwards at 9.8 meters per second squared, all the time it goes up and all the time it goes down, you know that is the rate everything falls at. We're done. Thanks for playing. Doesn't matter. You can fill it with water just as long as you hold the acceleration right. It'll work the same. It's completely pointless for the 9.8 meters per second squared. Fill it up with water for my sake. I don't care. As long as you keep that thing accelerating downwards, 9.8 meters per second squared, those scales are going to go to 0. And your little floaty thing, helium balloon or whatever, is not going to be falling. Or floating up in water. It's just going to hang there. No, I don't need
Because
it.
amorphous solids have a malleable fluidity.
Citations.
I have all of science, Chemo. I don't think so. That's it.
They have actual video of this occurring. Like, why would you need a citation?
I don't have to, Whammer. Oh, not Whammer. I'm sorry. Percentage. Because I have all of science backing me up right here.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there is video of this on Vomit Comment. So I don't know why. I don't know why he's asking for a citation when you can just watch the video of it occurring.
Oh, and you know, the fact is that whenever they ask for anything, just tell them to cram it up their snatch. Because this is the science. Got a little quiet, didn't it?
You guys are fucked.
That is all of science, Chemo. It is right there for you.
Just exposing their lives one day at a time.
Brain is required to use certain information.
Yeah, Chemo, if you're unable to grasp the information you're given, that's not really my problem. You know,
your information is trash.
You should
There's nothing to be
And
grasped.
yet you constantly cite things like drag equation.
Yeah, that's not your information. That's our information. You're trying to.
How is it your information?
You're trying to go against. You're saying the drag. There is no drag. That's what you're saying. You're like the drag isn't.
When did I say there is no drag in general?
The same rate, regardless of the pressure, regardless of the what's it called, the medium.
Yeah, this is the most pathetic attempt at strawman yet. When the fuck did they say there is no drag equation ever?
You said they fall at the same rate.
Yes.
They fall at the same
They
rate.
do.
They do.
They don't. Two different objects never fall at the same
How
rate.
did you derive from that sentence that I said there is no drag equation ever?
See, I eliminated that. It's a simple example. How hard is that?
Yeah, you guys can just turn, tuck your tails in and run.
But it's not over yet. It's not over yet. These guys, for me,
Demo, it was fucking over for thousands of years.
Yeah, but for me,
there is no fucking flat Earth.
But for me, there's no way you guys would say there's evidence if there's not evidence. You just wouldn't do that. So again, we're here, looking, waiting, listening, asking you to provide proof that the Earth is curving. We need proof.
More like here because they have a mental condition.
They have none.
They do. No one in their right mind would say, I have evidence of something and not produce it. That just doesn't happen in the real world, right?
You're telling it? You cram it up.
Yeah, I mean it does. It doesn't happen when they're honest, but unfortunately, that's not what we're dealing with.
Well, I've got hope in there. I mean, these guys have had 500 plus years to get it right, and there has to be curvature, measurable curvature.
Find anything in chat for these polls. Nothing.
There has to be science. There has to be variables that we can manipulate.
It's the fact. Learn to
There
live with
is
it.
science. We use this to make your friggin' computer. Why don't you?
No. I'm not talking about computer.
Chemo, brain is a requirement to understand certain complicated sentences that are often used in science. Brain is required.
Yeah, but these things, the things that you're saying are really quite simple. I mean, you're just talking about a shape, really. You're just talking about a measurement, really. I mean,
delusions about all sorts of conspiracies.
Who hasn't built
proof that you have a brain?
We've all built dens or like a wooden house, you know, like a house when you're a kid. So we all know how to build and, you know, put things together. This is not rocket science, like rocket science is trying to say here. This is very, very simple stuff. Now, obviously, if the Earth is curving and moving, it takes minutes to figure that stuff out. Not years of conversation about what you think is going on. Okay?
God, logorrhea is such a disgusting disorder.
So, that's where we are today. There's just no way that these guys, there's just no way that they would say this, right, without being able to produce the science. That's why BioDuel said he's going to go to college and show us Cavendish in a vacuum. He's going to show mass attractive mass. We're still waiting on Kosho 3 or 4 years later to show Rob Skiba's magnification test was not what it is. You know, he's going to go on a basketball court, get a lens, get a remote control car, put a little light on the remote control car, then back away, and that light will act as the sun. Kosho thinks that it won't go down in the same way with the lens. That was the bet. Still waiting for this evidence. So it's not like we hand wave dismiss. We hear this a lot from you guys. We hand wave dismiss. I think that's the last thing we do. I think we address it directly, head on.
All right, percentage. You want that video?
No, you don't. You don't. You hand wave dismiss all the Himawari images. I mean, you guys literally to this day will say there's no images from space, when Himawari literally has like hundreds of thousands of images from space.
Images from space under the dome, but not space, you know, beyond the Earth.
Dome. There's no dome.
No, not even. There's no verifiable images of space.
Oh God.
There's space under the dome.
Right.
Let's
this
try the most
is
responsible.
exactly what I'm talking about right here. You're just going to hand wave away literally hundreds of thousands.
Let me actually.
Hold on, I was in the middle of talking.
Photographs of space.
I was in the middle of talking. So you're literally going to hand wave away all the Himawari 8 images that match the conditions on the ground, hundreds of thousands of them that match the conditions on the ground perfectly for the entirety of the history of the Himawari 8 project. Sorry, you can't do that. You can't do that by faking it. Okay, it is
I will dismiss any evidence that is not verifiable.
It is verifiable. It is verifiable. You take the image and you verify all the features actually happened at that moment in time. That's how you verify it.
That is not a verifiable photograph.
Sure, of course it is.
No, it's not.
Of course it is.
Let's find out.
No, if I have to believe the source of the image, that's not a verifiable photograph.
I was going to ask you percent. Let me ask percent. Soundly, let me ask percent. How would you?
If I took any image, I could take a picture of my house right now and send it to you. And you can say, "Oh, I can't verify that image." Well, of course you could say that, but that's called hand waving.
Incorrect.
You're hand waving
you
it.
You could verify that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You could verify that. I could go to wherever you are. I could probably go there without even a passport, or without a visa, and go and take a picture or confirm that you took a picture or what have you.
Yes, and
It's
so
all
could
verifiable.
you could also do the same thing with the Himawari 8
I
images.
cannot.
Sure, you could.
No, I cannot.
If Rocket can't do it, how can we
go
do it?
out to space? They haven't shown that you can even propel in that sort of vacuum, right?
Exactly.
Sort of
What you're doing is called hand waving. You're
It's not hand waving.
away.
It's
sure it
literally
is.
impossible to
Absolutely is.
verify. I have
No, it's not.
To take
Have you put a satellite? Have you put a replica of Himawari 8 on a rocket and launched it with the same conditions that they did and tried to put it in the same location? Did you? Yes or no?
Have you soundly?
If you didn't, then you're hand waving it away.
Is a thing. They've never once shown that astronautics is actually a thing.
Again,
Never
if you haven't tried it, then you haven't demonstrated that it's not a thing.
What if Curve give you a hard time for your microphone percentage?
It's not my burden of proof. I don't have to demonstrate that it's not a thing. You guys have to demonstrate it is.
Sure, you're claiming that space is fake.
You guys claim space
so that's your burden of proof.
You have to demonstrate it.
No, I don't. We have demonstrated it.
You're very low, Zanuck.
You hand wave away all the demonstrations. We have demonstrated it. You hand wave that away. So now it's your burden of proof
No,
to
where's the
prove
demonstration?
that all of our
Where's the
demonstrations,
demonstration for space travel? Where's the demonstration for astronautics? Go.
the videos of people walking in space,
So
360 videos from the Russians.
Oh, okay, so you're pointing to the thing that we're trying to prove as proof. That's
No, I'm not.
claim?
No, I'm showing you evidence, and you're
pointing
hand
to the thing
waving
we're
it
trying
away.
to prove the thing in contention as proof. That's circular
There's
logic.
no, the thing is not in contention. It's not
Next.
circular logic. We actually are
I
showing
said
you
next.
evidence. Well, you're wrong. Not next. You're wrong. Simply, that's all there is to it. I win. You lose.
All right.
Because you're just basically trying to troll
It's
everybody.
pretty fucking
not-
simple. If you have a
there's a
photographic
demonstration.
evidence of people,
There
in
is a
space,
demonstration.
Space exists.
If I have video demonstration, then either you can show me why the video is false or fake. You can prove that to me,
Do
or
you know what
you
demonstration
have a
means, bro?
demonstration. Yes,
No.
I know exactly what demonstration is.
So we said this thing A it has never been proven, right?
It
And
has
you're
been
saying,
proven.
I have a demonstration, and then
There's
you're saying
our
my
demonstration.
demonstration is A.
No,
not
I'm
a
not.
demonstration
That's
of
that's
the
not
fact
what I'm.
that
That's
we
not what I'm
observed.
doing.
Dennis, can you hear me
That's
now?
literally
That's
what
not
you're
what I'm
saying.
doing. No, it's not literally what I'm saying
Dennis,
at
You said,
all.
let's
Step
point
away
to the
from your
things in the
microphone.
sky to prove the things in the sky exist. When you're saying the things in the sky
No,
are
I'm
demonstrated.
I'm saying here's
Can
a
you hear me
video.
now?
Here's video evidence of someone actually doing the thing that you're disputing.
Mike,
Yeah,
That's
you
like
have a
that's like saying that's like saying that's like saying
chamber of
that's like
air.
saying this
Oh, air
this
pressure.
this thief. That's like saying
Mike,
this thief just stole money from this bank, and we have it caught on video. Oh, have you demonstrated that bank theft is even possible? No, you haven't. Well, yeah, I have. Here's the video right here. Nope, that's
that's
just
not the
video.
same.
You're trying to
That's
prove.
not the same.
You're trying to prove. No, that's the same exact
That's not
thing.
the same, 'cause
You're
that's
trying to
verifiable.
prove that bank theft. You're trying to prove that bank theft is possible by showing me a video of bank theft. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
No, 'cause
That's
we
how it
can
works.
actually verify that. Again, we can verify
No,
that.
you
In the
can't.
FCC,
No, you
we can
can't.
verify. I could go. I could check
You
out
can't
that.
verify that.
TV in the corner
You
and
can't,
verify
you
it.
can't verify that. But if you weren't there watching it, you can't verify that video.
I can see that there's
Based on your logic.
camera in the corner of the room. I can verify
Exactly.
that actually is a legit.
Dennis, can you turn your microphone down?
In the same way, you can take
You
the
guys hear me?
photograph from Human Warrior 8. Yes,
Yeah, you're
I
still a
can.
little bit,
In the
but
same
you're-
way, you can take the photograph from Human Warrior 8, and you can go verify that volcanic eruption actually occurred. You can go to that place and verify.
You cannot verify the photograph.
Yes, you can.
Just a minute.
Percentage, can you step away from your microphone just a little bit? You're really saturated, and it's blowing my ears out. I even have you turned down. It's just really
Pretty annoying. But also,
Is this
since
better?
we can verify this gravity fact that I just presented, well, then we're done, aren't we? That was it.
Well, it's the same TD's argument, you guys. You guys have no proof, and it's never going to end because you have no proof, and it's like your convenient claims that you can't falsify nor prove.
Gravitational acceleration is easily verified the way I explained to you carefully. There is no question left. It's done, percentage. That was
What
it.
do you mean, you mean Space City?
You can redo it anytime you want. The downward bias of 9.8
What downward
meters
bias?
squared. The downward bias of 9.8 meters per second squared.
There's no downward bias. In a pit of osmium, you don't have a downward bias.
Repeatable, easily verified. You have nothing, percentage.
You don't have a downward bias. In a pit of osmium, you wouldn't have a downward bias. You'd have an upward bias. It's all about the medium that you're in, so it
I
doesn't
would
matter.
have no bias as long as I followed that exact rate of acceleration.
You would have
no
an upward bias in the pit of osmium. Everything would go up. Nice try.
No, it wouldn't. Drop
yes,
it
it would.
9.8 meters per second squared, and nothing goes up or down in it.
In a pit of
Same
osmium,
thing.
everything would go up.
No.
As soon as you let go of it, it would go up.
No, percentage.
Apparently, you don't know what
You
you're talking
know
about.
this because if you had any grasp of what it means, you would know that.
Again, you need to look into
Easily
it.
verified.
You need to look into your doctrine. You need to brush up on your religion so
pretending
you
that
become
you're-
harder and more accurate.
Stop fucking pretending that this relative density or whatever you want to call it, your version of it, is some kind of science which is verified or proven.
It's the truth.
Just don't
Buoyancy-
fucking pretend. It's annoying.
Buoyancy and density, you know that. It's the object and the medium, the density.
Archimedes'
of
force
all
is
that
well
matters.
understood, and it
Yes,
has to do with
Archimedes'
gravity.
law. Yeah, exactly.
It has to do with gravity. Don't
It
fucking
doesn't have to do
pretend
with gravity.
that you
No, it
know
has to
something
do
about it.
It has
You
to do
don't.
with the what they call the downward acceleration. Okay, that's just basically the speed at which they've measured it. The speed that they have given an average. It's not even like an actual speed. It's just an averaged out number that they attributed to all things in a specific vacuum. It's just basically an agreed upon number. That's it.
You missed the point.
I missed your point. Okay.
Point being is you're not citing any credible sources if you're going to go with the relative density bullshit.
Archimedes isn't a relative source. Archimedes' law.
Very local number, and
Yeah, and Archimedes does not support
buoyancy equation isn't a like an authoritative source for you.
Archimedes' force does not support your claim.
Yes, it does.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it does.
We nullify it by nullifying that acceleration. So no, it doesn't. There you go.
You can't nullify the acceleration, bro.
Yes, I can.
No, because that's just what the agreed upon number is. Just because for us getting rid of pressure, having a chamber of air, like of a very very little air, is more feasible than having a chamber of like a pit of osmium. If we were a subterranean species and it was easier for us to have a really like melted pit of a super dense liquid, then we would have an upward acceleration that we'd be plugging into all of our equations.
Way you're wrong about that, other than continuously over talking, is that if I drop that osmium pit there at more than
drop an osmium pit, bro.
Poe, shut up. When I drop that osmium pit there at more than 9.8 meters,
you drop the pit.
Squared, I put a elastic band on it so it goes down a little faster.
What are you talking about?
Floats the other way.
The pit is the medium, bro. You're not understanding it. I'm not talking about like a pit, like a stone in a fruit.
Stop over talking, you Poe. Stop over talking, Poe. It's not suiting. It's not fitting for a debate.
All right.
Whenever it accelerates downwards at more than 9.8 meters per second squared.
Sword, you do realize that the pit of osmium is the medium.
The way around, Poe.
The medium, bro. You're not understanding this.
Everything's gonna sword the other way around, Poe.
So are you trolling or what? You understand what a pit of osmium is?
I don't know.
Yes, I understand what it is, and I understand the downwards acceleration is what causing it to have any buoyancy effect on anything.
So how are you gonna drop a pit of osmium?
Put it in a jar.
Put it in a jar.
You're gonna drop a pit of osmium in a jar.
Put a little rock in
it. Maybe this is like lost in translation.
You're talking about fucking osmium as a medium. What's the difference whether it's in a pit or in a jar?
Because if it's in a pit, it's going to be going down. Anything that's in it is going to go up. If it's in a jar, it's not even going to...
Let me repeat that. If it's in a jar, it's going to go up in that osmium, and if it's in a pit, it's going to go down.
Wrong.
Even though
if it's in a jar, it's going to melt through the jar and go down. Because it's a super dense, super hot liquid. Super hot, super dense medium.
Apparently jars and pits are different kinds of containers.
So I got the tail end of this, but someone sounds like a fucking idiot, whoever the osmium dude is.
That'll be percent.
Oh, okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, call me osmium.
Hey, percent, I posted something in chat because you won't do the calculation, so I did. It's just going. Sorry for everybody. I'm going back a second in the vacuum chamber for a bowling ball falling.
No,
I did the work, so I'm going to present the results. Okay. So I took a bowling ball falling 1 kilometer, and I approximated the drag force using the drag, which is not the way to do it, but the difference ends up being 0.02 seconds. These are hand wavy calculations, not exact. You actually have to use free-form molecular flow to actually do the impact calculation. But I did it using the regular drag equation. So 0.02 seconds over 1 kilometer fall in a vacuum of a bowling ball weighing 5 kilograms. Go ahead, percent. You show me something similar.
So is that 0?
0.0. No one said it was going to be 0, you disingenuous
you guys said they fall at the exact same rate.
Disingenuous fucktard. No one said 0.02 seconds is what I calculate. You're not going to be able to capture that.
Again, is that...
And that's a one... Hang on. Let's be... No one said... And that's a 1 kilometer.
3 of your compatriots said that it doesn't fall... that they fall at the exact same rate.
Do you know what at the same rate means?
Yeah, it means the exact same acceleration.
Because the effect is going to be happening on both objects at the same time. Whatever's happening on one is going to happen at the other. They're going to cancel out.
Or why are we still hand waving and whistling past the obvious here. There's two forces. Yes, things fall at the same rate when there's not another force acting on them.
Cracking up,
Zanik. In the real world, Zanik, we have no perfect vacuum.
In the real world,
There's
yes.
always other forces acting against them,
No,
so they're never
not
falling
always.
at the same rate.
Not always. Like
Always.
for example, let's say we had a chamber that was evacuated and had just sulfur hexafluoride in it, and we cooled it down on top of it. All that gas would be at the bottom. So at the top part of the chamber would have no gas. So yeah, you could measure and make it have a very, although all of it would be very accurate because there's so few particles, there's so little collisions that you're going to get the same answer all the time. You want to know that if there's a small change, if it runs into another particle, that's fine. But what is the argument here? I don't get it. You don't know how they measure pressure. You've said they use an altimeter and a barometer.
You do get it, Zanik. Don't try to like.
Have you heard of an ion gauge? Let me give you the answer for the question you had before.
They claim that the bowling ball and the feather fall at the same exact rate, regardless of distance.
And you can see it. And you can see it.
No, they don't fall at the same exact rate, regardless of distance.
Why not?
Because it's not a perfect vacuum. So there's at some point the air resistance is going to make them fall at a different rate. Actually, at the beginning, it's going to be making them fall at a different rate.
What air is in there?
Appreciate it more.
What air resistance?
Air.
What air is
It's a low
Air
pressure air chamber.
Where the fuck are you gonna have a fluid in the chamber?
What do you mean fluid?
Fluid. Air is fluid.
But Drake formula is not described for a gas. It's described for a fluid.
We're talking about. What are you talking about, bro? Air is a fluid. It's the low pressure air chamber.
Hey guys, how tall do you think that vacuum chamber was? About 10 meters?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does matter.
Yeah,
You're
you guys should
measuring
think.
a fall.
Yeah, because when
only 10
because
meters.
when I take it to 10 meters, the time of fall is 1.43 and 1.43.
Is that 0?
What's the difference between two numbers that are the same, you dipshit?
For the bowling ball and the what's it called, you're saying that it's 1.43 and that's it. No decimal places after.
It's 1.43.
Oh, so
I'm using a simple calculator because I don't like. Tell you what. You know what percent? Tell you what. Here's the deal. Here's the whole point of all of this. You calculate it and show me your numbers.
Or you guys could just be honest for a split.
You calculate. No. I'm not going to let you deflect the time. I'm not going to let you deflect. No, percent. I calculated. I want you to present your results so you can counter what I did.
Yo, just be honest. Just be honest.
Honesty is me doing the work and you not doing anything.
Percentage. Wouldn't that be proof, though, by our ideas and theories that there is a constant and a universal falling rate at that particular elevation above the Earth? The fact that one...
You can infer that, and I'll be the first to say...
Let me finish. You don't understand what I'm saying. You don't understand what I'm saying. If we could... Hold on. If we could then measure the resistance and the friction or the drag of a fluid acting on a body, and you study this in fluid dynamics, which you've never done before, and you can measure these forces. Couldn't you extrapolate out to it if there was no force acting on it, what that fall rate would do? And if we measured that fall rate, wouldn't that corroborate your idea or your theory?
So, yes, you can.
You have the fall rate.
I let you finish. Let me finish. Come on. Let's be decent people. So, again, you can extrapolate it and you can infer, and I would be the first to say, I believe that in a perfect vacuum, they would fall at the same exact rate. The issue is we don't have any perfect vacuums. So it's completely dishonest because it's the law of non-violation, law of non-contradiction.
Here he comes making up his fucking claim.
Let me finish. You cannot say at a perfect vacuum they fall at the same exact rate, but in a non-perfect vacuum, they're still falling at the exact same rate. We know that drag is a thing. It's dishonest to say two different objects fall at the same exact rate. Can you please concede that?
Does not apply for your example.
You
are applying drag to a near perfect vacuum. That is a fucking dishonest position.
I'm applying it to a low pressure air chamber.
Every physics book will have fine print in it that will tell you that you can only apply drag equation to a fluid which affects the object from all sides equally. That will not occur in a perfect vacuum chamber.
Someone that's actually taking fluid dynamics, that is a true statement.
That's not a true statement. You could again
that is absolutely correct. And by the way, I fudged it by using. I fudged it. Hang on for a second. I even did you a favor. I fudged it by using the equation that you want to use.
Bros, I could take NASA's website and it says the reference area can be the frontal area or the total surface area, depending on like what the medium is. Yeah,
that's not true. I'm telling you that's not true.
Now you disagree with NASA.
Yes, because NASA has very cute cartoon pictures that many people like you who've never studied this in school can misunderstand. You have misunderstood that. You mean to tell me that by the surface area of a bullet, that's the same surface area as a plate, that's going to have the same drag? Is that what you're saying?
No. Apparently your English
That's what you said to me. That's how I took it. Please explain then. You said both are interchangeable.
No, hold on.
You said the surface area or the frontal area, or I'm talking, you're talking over.
That you think or that you want me to say, okay? The ones that actually say. Can you do that? That way we won't have like this weak attempt of straw manning.
Well, don't talk over me. You said that the frontal area and the surface area can be interchanged. Did you not?
Notice that the area A given in the drag equation is given as a reference area. The
put
drag
it on the chat. Put a picture of that.
Since we are dealing with aerodynamic forces, the dependence can be characterized by some area. But which area do we choose? If we think of drag as being caused by friction between the air and the body, a logical choice would be the total surface area of the body. If we think of air as being a resistance to the flow, a more logical choice would be the frontal area of the body that is perpendicular to the flow direction. And finally, if we want to compare with the lift coefficient, we should use the same wing area used to derive the lift coefficient. Get
so
wrecked,
what did
son.
you get from that? I can tell right now the way you're talking about it that you don't understand what you even read. I understand it because some of us here have studied it, but you have not, and you're reading it.
Yeah,
you're talking
it's the frontal projection area that you use in the calculation, which is what I used.
Get wrecked,
so
son.
You didn't understand what you even read
you
there.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Parasitic drag is not the same as drag due to lift. Parasitic
three-headed hydra is getting killed by Hercules, man.
What? Like, this is just like a barking chihuahua who has no idea what he's talking about. That's the best example that I can give for this guy.
The point is, the reference area in the drag equation is contextual. It depends on what you're measuring, okay? So in a fluid...
Contextual?
Where you have objects falling down in air, then you can take the frontal area, and it's absolutely applicable. Thank you very much.
The bowling ball, it has one fucking area no matter which way you look at it. What's the big deal?
Did you figure in the wind resistance from the holes?
God damn it, I knew I forgot something. Anyways, percent, I expect you to do some calculation to counter what I did. Let's see what you got.
By the way, I have an answer for you that I was getting muted the entire time, but I don't want to go into details, but it's called an ion gauge. And that's how you measure things in a semiconductor vacuum chamber and depositing things at the atomic level. And they don't use a barometer, they don't use an altimeter, they don't use a pressure gauge like you use on your tire. It's called an ion gauge. And you probably don't know how that works.
Substantiation for your claim or no?
You want to see video of them using the ion gauge?
Showing 1 × 10⁻10 torr. That's what you said, right?
Yeah. They do that by sending electrons across this field, and when it hits an air molecule or any kind of gas molecule, it'll show an ion will be released, and by counting the ions, that's the proportional amount of gas that's in that chamber. And by using that chamber, they can figure out how much is in it.
So what's the proportion?
It's directly proportional. They find 4 ions, they go 4 molecules of gas.
So it doesn't depend on what gas it is?
Of course it does.
So again, how'd they come up with what ion is proportional to what gas?
So you want to know how this works? Is that that's good. You're
claiming it's a thing, right? So 2 things. You could substantiate it with a video of them actually measuring it and showing the pressure to be 1 × 10⁻10 torr, and for this semiconductor chamber.
Right.
And the other thing is we can talk about like the actual workings of it.
The number of ions is proportional to the gas molecule density. Okay, so the number of ions you get will determine what gas you're actually bouncing off of. Why can't you understand? I'm giving to the most simplest, basic terms, and you act. It's just so funny. It's Dunning-Kruger personified in you. You think you know more. You think this can't be true.
No.
I haven't seen it.
Zanuck,
I need video. Yet we do.
You don't have to make an argument from emotions, Zanuck. You don't have to ad hom or poison the well.
It's not ad hom at all.
It is. You're saying that these ions are directly proportional to the amount of molecules in this chamber, right? You said there's a proportion for specific gases. I'm asking you how they came up with those proportions and how they calibrate this gauge to know that it's accurate. If you have those answers, that'd be great.
This forms when the collector on this ion gauge forms the ion current, and they measure the current.
Zen, you don't have to do this. What this guy is doing is sea lining you.
No,
you have to explain every single thing about every single apparatus of every single experiment that anyone's ever done before he accepts it as fact. How about you go to school? Why don't you go to school and stop being a sea liner?
The molecule density is proportional to the pressure, as we all know. And they measure that by measuring the ion current. And the ions that come off the molecule determine the density of that molecule. That's how simple it is, really. I mean, it's very complicated, actually, but that's the overview. Now, you, in your simpleton mind, I don't believe that. That's not possible because I haven't seen it. There's no video on YouTube. That's what you sound like. You sound like a complete idiot, Percentage. This is a very, very established science. They use it every day to make the chips that are in your computer, and it's a very, very complicated process.
Okay.
You have no clue.
Enough grandstanding.
I've lived it for many years.
So far, you're I don't know if you're buying time or you're.
What am I buying time for? What are you talking about? I gave you the answer.
You're either mistaken, Zanuck, or you're lying because you haven't.
What do you want?
Okay, so real talk, Zanuck. The kitty gloves are off. You're being a fucking liar and opposite.
Tell me what you want.
You made the claim. You made the claim that they measured pressure to be 1 times 10 to the negative 10 torr. Where is the video?
I just told you how they did it.
I don't need a reassertion of the claim.
Tell me what you want is evidence.
I want evidence. Show me
a
video showing them measuring it and it showing 1 times 10 to the negative 10 torr.
So, Percentage. Every time I'm talking, you talk over me. Tell me what you want is evidence. What will satisfy you as evidence?
I want a video we already agreed on. You went actually to go look for it, and you didn't come back with it.
I didn't look for it. I was just going to tell you
a video of them measuring the semiconductor chamber, showing a reading of 1 times 10 to the negative 10 torr. I'm not even going to ask you to show me that they calibrated it correctly. I'll just take it at face
because you'd be able to determine whether they calibrated it correctly. You're such an asshole.
You probably could.
You're such an asshole, Percentage. You really are. Are you an asshole? Like this
I'm an asshole because I'm holding you to your claim. I'm an asshole because I'm keeping you honest. You should be saying thank you.
This field, I've tried to be nice and explain to you, and you just shit all over me.
You should be saying thank you for me keeping you honest.
No, I'm not saying thank you to you. You're a prick.
Okay, because these globs right here, they let you be dishonest. They won't say a shit to you. But I'm giving you I'm doing you the good service of telling you. That you make this claim, so if you're going to be an honest person, you have to substantiate it, because a man's word is his bond. So if you want to keep your word, and be a good dude, that's cool. If not, if you want to be a little lying bitch, then that's
wow. Coming from percent, you're actually saying this? I can't stomach listening to you say this.
Rocket, you've already made a claim that you've never substantiated. You never.
I've given you 3 calculations. You've yet to back up.
You've been shown to be intellectually dishonest.
I'm intellectually dishonest. No.
Yes.
No percent. You can't say that in this room to me, of all people. Okay. I don't. I don't play the games that you do.
Because I'm a real nigga.
No, actually, you're not. You have yet to substantiate any of the claims you made. You don't back it up with data. You don't back it up with any calculation. You are the absolute one of the most absolute intellectual dishonest people in this industry. Man. You got nerve to say that to me? Give me a fucking break.
How did you substantiate the following of 2 objects, different rates? How did you substantiate that?
With a drag equation and F equals ma.
Right. I know you're listing equations that you can use. Have you used them to show this?
No.
Right. So you haven't substantiated that.
I have, unless you're disagreeing with science.
No, I'm disagreeing with you, and I'm waiting for you.
Okay, hold on. Let's talk about the theory. Theoretically,
we're agreeing with
are you disagreeing with those equations? Yes or no?
You can go back to your hole.
Because the burden of proof isn't needed. There's nothing to substantiate if we agree, right? It's only when there's contention. So, do you disagree with my using those equations?
It's not accurate either. If two stupid people say a stupid thing, it doesn't make it right.
Are those equations incorrect?
Sit here picking every word percentage, and yet you don't even read the actual drag equation.
Okay, buddy, that doesn't even know what A refers to in the equation. Thank you.
Look at the sentence which I pasted from Wikipedia. In fluid dynamics, the drag equation is a formula used to calculate the force of drag experienced by an object due to movement through a fully enclosing fluid. Unless you have a fully enclosing fluid, you can't talk about a drag equation. You understand that?
Again, I said the surface area would be the frontal area that you're using.
Pretending that a near vacuum in a vacuum chamber is a fully enclosing fluid, and you can just use the drag equation, there is the misunderstanding on your part.
No, there's no misunderstanding.
Listen, hold on,
We're
percentage.
considering the drag to be resistance to the flow, so you're going to use the frontal area. This is what your own NASA Lord tell you.
Percentage.
Go ahead,
Rocket scientists has already conceded that the planets have drag on them and they're slowing down over time. So I don't know what
Jeremy,
this is about saying that you can't have.
Hey, no, wait, you fucking lying cunt. Don't you dare put words in my mouth like that, okay?
He said over like the period of that BBC video that the bowling ball is slowing down at 0.02 of a second or some crap. The point is it's slowing down.
I never stated atmospheric drag affects planetary motion. Where the fuck did you hear me say that?
You said over billions of years.
Did you notice the sarcasm in my voice?
So you don't think that
0.02.
I made a sarcastic statement, and you want to use it as a statement of fact and throw it in my face, you lying little cunt.
What about when you conceded about the bowling ball over a kilometer? What about that?
What's conceding about that? I made a calculation. There's nothing to concede when I made a calculation on it.
Okay, and how fat? So the bowling ball was what, 0.02? How much does the feather?
Over a kilometer, Jeremy. When I take it down to 15.
How much does the feather?
Jeremy, when I take it down to 15 meters, there's no discernible difference between them.
Already stated you're not using big enough vacuum chambers. We know.
Don't misquote me, Jeremy. That's bullshit.
So you don't agree that the atmosphere is slowing the planets down? The gas in space is slowing planets down? You don't agree to that?
I would never fucking agree to that.
All right.
I made an off-the-cuff comment. Yeah, maybe this much in billions of years as just to placate some stupid position that you had.
With the fucking drag equation, it's still not going to work.
So so relax. I agree with you. You cannot do it, but I bullshitly did it. I took the grams per mole of atmosphere. I used Avogadro's number, and I took the number of particles for 10 to the negative 6 toward vacuum, because this is how many particles, right? I approximated the density from that. It's bullshit. I get it. I took that, and I took it in the drag equation to get the K value, which is the drag per distance, right?
So was it
hand weight minus 5? But I did it to shut percent up.
Was it a placative comment or a sarcastic comment?
A request to shut up. Please continue.
Either way, it's meant to shut you up, and don't take me and don't quote me seriously when I do that. Obviously,
I never quote you seriously because you always lie.
Really? You're gonna say that to me, percent?
Yeah, you're just saying that the planets aren't being slowed down by drag, even though there is drag. Like that's literally what you just said.
How much are they being slowed down? I haven't even contemplated calculating what that would be.
Okay, here.
It's not whether you can accurately measure it.
Hold on a second. This is from physics.org. They are so tiny that they are almost
insignificant.
Behavior for large clumps on the order of hundreds of meters in diameter. The drag of surrounding gases is also relatively negligible. Their mass is large enough that over the 10 million year period of a planetary formation, the gas doesn't slow them down much.
Million years.
Billions. Okay, so I was off by old men.
Phrase in there, guys. During planetary formation, because once a planet is formed, it's cleared its orbit, so there is not really any gas to drag it down.
Not really any or not any.
Next.
Not really any or not?
Well, look, they're using that article that said that the Earth's atmosphere extends out to the moon. That's what Jeremy's harping on.
So Jeremy is not realizing that the gas, which is extending to the moon, is also orbiting Earth, and not just the moon is hitting it and dragging it. Jeez.
My argument is that gas molecules will have drag on objects moving through the medium. Is anyone arguing with that?
I'm going to back. I resent the fact that you call me a liar. In any
and that's what you want.
Because I back up what I say. I present data. I present calculations.
You do for the.
You know what? You're a piece of shit for saying that to me. Because you don't back up your shit.
99 satellites.
Back up anything that you do.
Imaging it in one day during the forest fires. You do not back that up, and you didn't concede it.
Because I'm not going to dox myself, you fucking asshole.
So say that I concede the claim because I can't prove it.
No, I can prove it. I can actually do a simulation to show what the coverage is, to show that it can be done with those satellites.
I'm willing to prove it because I don't want to dox myself. Say that you're conceding the claim.
No.
Why would he do that?
There you go.
Why would he
would he do that?
pretend? Why would he pretend that something wasn't true if it was true because he couldn't show some evidence to you? Why would he do that? Well, why? Why would
because
he
he's
do
not
it incorrect?
substantiating it. He's choosing not to substantiate it for whatever reason.
If I may,
It's okay, rocket scientists. It's okay.
I provided two other
Jim's here.
open
You
source
don't have to
satellites
defend
that have done it. That the data is publicly available, and provided that to percent.
Look,
no, you said that it has happened.
Claims with zero substantiation is literally the foundation of flat Earth. I don't know why you're holding him
the entirety of it in one day.
You don't also hold yourself to.
When you talk one at a time, just be aware that other people are talking when you're talking.
Yeah, so you said that less than 99 satellites had imaged Australia during the forest fires in less than one day. That's what your claim was. Now, if you don't want to substantiate because you don't want to dox yourself or whatever, that's fine. But you have to admit that you can't substantiate it. And
I can substantiate using another set of satellites. Not in one day, but I can still substantiate that Australia can be imaged in a delta T.
Okay, so again, that's not the claim. What the original claim was. So if you're going to continue,
the funny thing is, you actually deflected from the original claim.
Listen,
Rocket, what the original point was.
Rocket, I'm with you, man. If you want to, if we could talk about it, doing it in 5 days, if you want. But first, we have to get rid of the first claim. You understand? That's how it works, right?
We don't. Just be
we already got rid of that in the conversation we had.
So you're conceding the first claim. We're moving on to 5 days.
Fine. It's now 5 days with 2 satellites. Go.
See the first claim.
Fine. You know what? For the point, for the purpose of this, I will do so. But I will hold that in check until you produce your analysis, and then I will write that out and sign it and give it to you. But you need to do the analysis, and you need to provide it first.
What analysis?
How many balloons would be required to image Australia in 5 days with a ground sampling distance of 5 meters per pixel?
Who says they do?
In the report that I gave you that was done by the Sentinel-2 satellites.
Okay. I'm not making the claim that they do, bro. Or that, like, it's a specific, it'll happen in a specific time period. You're the one that you said that the satellites did it.
So what explanation do you have?
But you haven't proved.
What explanation do you have for the existence of this data then? How do you explain it? How did it come about?
Well, I'd imagine that they are high altitude balloons because we know those exist. We know that there's like weather balloons and high altitude balloons.
There we go. So you are saying it's balloons. So are you able to do the study that Rocket's
I'm not saying that actually happened though. I haven't claimed that they actually imaged all of Australia in a day like he claimed.
We feel that he could substantiate that high altitude balloons exist. I haven't seen any evidence that he's presented for it.
If you want the substantiation of high altitude balloons, period, then I could easily.
This is where I get annoyed. He calls me a liar, but I back up. I back my shit up. I provide information. This guy wants to play these fucking word games and be a coward and run away from the analysis that he implied that he would do because he said that he would investigate what it would take to do this calculation. This is out of his own shit mouth.
I understand it's frustrating when you
have to deal with a fucking liar like this.
It's really
frustrating because you're a. It's frustrating because you're.
Let me say something real quick, and then Jem, you could ad hom me as much as you want. But the point is, if you stick with the truth, if you claim what you know and substantiate that, then you don't have to worry about anything else. I'm not worried, bro. Like I'm chill. I'm not breaking a sweat because I'm only claiming what I know. I'm not being disingenuous whatsoever. So it's not hard. You know, if you're
know
not
that
lying,
it's done by saloons, you should be able to calculate
the webs we weave when we lie and deceive. Like, I'm not lying about a single thing.
You're being completely disingenuous, and you're being absurd and unreasonable, and that's why it's frustrating to talk to you. We saw highlighted when I came into this your epistemology. Basically, it's if somebody can't prove it to me and show evidence for it to me, well, actually prove it to me in Discord, therefore it's reasonable for me to pretend that whatever it is doesn't exist.
No.
That's yes, that is
No.
literally
If
your
you can't
position.
prove it to me,
That's what
and
you
have-
said to Rocket. You said, you can't prove it to me, therefore concede it.
Yeah, the claim
Pretend
is conceded.
it's not
I mean,
possible.
No, okay.
Pretend
Jem,
it's not
Jem, you're
possible
confusing a
because
claim
you haven't
being conceded.
produced evidence for it in Discord, therefore pretend it's impossible.
Jem, you're confusing a claim being conceded with me making a negative claim of non-existence. They're not the same thing.
I'm not making 2 points.
Well,
So,
your point was
I think this is pretty
confounded.
easy to clear up then. Percentage. Do you or do you not agree that it is possible to do it with satellite imagery?
I've never seen any substantiation to indicate that.
That's not my question.
So I have no.
Do you
I
believe
can't
it
tell you
can
if
be
I
done
agree or
with
disagree. If I don't even know if it's real, bro. I can speculate, but like I'm speculating that they don't exist.
What's
I
the
don't
word
know.
believe
I
mean?
don't know.
No. Was believe an absolute, or was believe? What is your belief?
What you do or don't know doesn't
agree.
matter.
He asked your
showed
belief,
you-
not your knowledge.
You said you
He
agree.
showed you the conclusion, the result of satellite imagery taking at a certain pixel per meter resolution, and you saying, "Well, I don't know how that's possible," is pretty much your stance. Is that right?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I was reading something.
He gave you evidence of Australia taken over X period of days with a 5 meter per pixel resolution, and your response to that is I don't know how that's possible.
No,
is that
he
right?
didn't give me evidence of that.
I posted the report.
He gave me he gave me a link. He gave me a link saying that it's possible that they could do it.
It was done. Oh, for fuck's sake! It was done in 2019. Go look in the Sentinel image archives, like I've said to you multiple times, and you can
Hold
get.
up, did the guy say over 5 days or 1 day?
The amount of days.
Sentinel 2 satellites did it in 5
the
days.
amount of days is relevant because he said initially 1 day that they had done it, but he didn't substantiate that, and then he said that they could do it in 1 day, but they have. I think he said that they have done it in 5 days. Is that true, Ronnie?
That was not with the Sentinel-2 satellites. That was with other stuff that he doesn't want to talk about for personal reasons.
If I may, when I first said in coverage in 1 day, those are the satellites that I worked on. So I provide Sentinel-2, which were done in Australia using 2 satellites over 5 days.
There you go.
So you have the proof. Your response is either yes, it's possible, or no, it isn't.
I don't know if it's possible because I've never seen substantiation that satellites exist.
Okay, so your answer then is no, it isn't possible.
No, I don't know because there's no substantiation that this actually happened.
But there is.
It's amazing how much time
we
you spend in conversations about the things you don't know anything about.
That's what we're talking about. Most of this stuff is what we don't know.
If you're shown a picture and you've never seen a camera before in your life, your thing is, well, it can't possibly exist because I've never seen a camera. How did you make this? That's your stance right now.
No, it's not because we have cameras. So nice try.
You want substantiation? There's a link. Seasonal fractional coverage, Eastern and Central Australia coverage.
I know we have
They're
cameras.
linked to the
We
data.
also have satellites, yet you refuse one and believe the other. So
Show-
somewhere
show
in
me-
your
show me
brain,
a satellite that's show me a satellite that's being launched showing the horizon turn into a globe or something, or show
You know
me
what? There's
show me astronautics.
goalposts
Show me-
and then you moving it to another stadium. Like this is just
no,
ridiculous.
it's directly relevant. Show me that there's propulsion in a low air like atmosphere. Low
Go to
pressure
the
environment.
Smithsonian. You can see the NASA museum exhibit of the satellites that they've brought up, taken down. You can fill your brain
That's
with
the
actual
claim.
real life things that you can touch. You can come down here to Florida and go to Cape Canaveral and see SpaceX launches. you can do
Houston,
all this if you
Houston
want.
as well. You can do
But
all
just
you
saying
Yo,
because
come to
I
my
haven't
house.
done it myself, it's no longer possible is stupid.
Yo, come to my house. I got some candles here that have been up in space.
His goal is
Should I open a museum?
His goal is to empty his brain, not fill it. To reach the point of not knowing anything about anything, and then he will have accomplished his goal.
If you say so. Keep on ad homing,
Well, that's
poisoning
what
the well.
people get from you, man. I mean, that's the vibe you get off.
I don't care. I'm intellectually honest. If we don't know, if there's not evidence of it, if there's not definitive, verifiable evidence,
You're not honest
it's
at all.
not good enough.
But there is
Percentage, can I ask you a question?
definitive verifiable evidence.
Percentage, what do you do for what's your career? What kind of
Come
things
down
do you
to
do?
Cape Canaveral, buddy. Come down to Florida. I will show you the museum at Cape Canaveral. We can
You have a video showing
hold hands, and
astronautics?
then we can do it on a day that they're launching a SpaceX shuttle, and you can see it from 15 miles away. It go up. How's that? And we can hold hands for that too.
Or you could just show me a video of astronautics in in outer space, how it would be in outer space.
Not good enough for you, man. You got to see it with your own eyes.
Show me out of these thousands and thousands of
hands.
launches, you could show me just a single video of the horizon turning into the globe. Show me something.
You'll just call it CGI, buddy. Why don't you come down here and physically touch it and visually see it? Because that's the only proof that you will accept.
That's
Hey,
not the only
percentage. Would you take a look at the video, please?
Will do.
It's a pretty good coverage of India launching their satellite into space, and it's a geosynchronous satellite. And you can also verify it by getting online and tracking satellites. And because it's geosynchronous, all you need to do is point it in a particular direction, and you don't need to follow it because it will always be in a particular place in the sky because it is geosynchronous.
I was watching it was December 24th, I believe. I was outside and I was looking at the no longer conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, but I was looking in their direction. And every 48 or some X amount of minutes or so, I could see a little dot whiz past them as one of the satellites around our Earth was orbiting and passing through it like clockwork.
Right. It's pretty common, I think, for people with telescopes to spot geosynchronous satellites. Pretty easy.
Yeah, it's dead fucking easy. But let's shut our brains off for a
not
second.
any definitive evidence of anything.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about your opinion. I gave you exactly what you asked for.
Let me change that. It's definitive evidence that they launched something into the air.
It's definitive evidence because you can verify the existence of this satellite. Because I'll do more research and I'll get the exact satellite coding, and then we can find it in the satellite tracker, and then you can confirm it by looking.
What, the number or something in the video?
What's that?
How will we match the satellite that's in this photo or in this video with one that is allegedly in the air?
Look, if we move the goalpost, that's fine.
It's like the goalposts just get shifted.
No,
like
I just want to let you know
there's
that
there.
the exact request that you made, I gave to you. I just want it to be known the exact request that you made is in the chat, and you've just watched it.
What's the exact request?
You want to see a satellite being launched into space and then being in space. I just
No,
gave
that's
it
not
to
what I said. The exact request was a satellite being launched, showing the horizon turn into the globe.
you. No one gives a shit about the horizon. We're talking about satellites in space, right? It could be a flat Earth, but it's in space, right? But it's in space, right? But it's in space.
Kyle, come on, man. You're better than this. You know what?
No, I know I'm better than this. I'm providing you evidence.
You know what my request was? Please don't misquote me and strawman me, and try to make it like you.
I don't know why you're bringing in the horizon when we're talking about satellites in space. It doesn't matter what the shape of the Earth is, right?
Turning into the globe to show that it's actually just not flat, but also a sphere.
It doesn't matter what the shape of the Earth is. It could be a flat Earth, but there's a satellite in space. So the shape of the Earth doesn't matter.
Because if you're in space, you'll be able to see that it's a globe. Right?
Again, it doesn't matter. We're talking about satellites in space. That's all we're doing right now.
You know it's in space as opposed to just high in the air, unless you can see the globe.
Why does it have to be a globe? It can't be a flat Earth and then it's in space?
I don't know about that. But if you're
right, if you don't know, then don't make that claim. We don't care about
I'm not
the
making
shape
that
of the
claim.
Earth
I'm not
with
making
a
a claim.
satellite in space.
If you're saying it's in space, you have to show that it's in space. How are you doing that?
With the video that I provided you.
That shows it's in the air again.
Showed you it's in the air and it's in space. Keep going. Keep watching.
Is there a pressure gauge showing that it's 1 times 10 to the negative 17?
Thank you for moving the goalpost yet again. I appreciate it.
Have
a great
space,
day.
Kyle? Let's be honest. How do you know it's in space?
I'm just watching a video, but you're right.
This guy's not even worth it anymore. Seriously, he was never was to begin with, but He's just demonstrated that he's not
Like,
worth it.
it's funny how I'm hated for keeping you guys on it.
No, you're making the
You're
goalpost.
hating on me for keeping you guys honest. That's hilarious to me.
You know that the whataboutisms and the how do you knows is just sea lining. Just stop.
Skepticism, and I'm not going to just give you the benefit of the doubt when it doesn't even when there's reasonable doubt.
What's your forte? What do you do for work?
Don't worry about it, Zanuck.
No, I'm
Don't
curious.
deflect. You won't answer anything like that.
I'm very curious of what you do. Like, what your specialty is.
Don't worry about it.
No, what's your special? What do you take pride in? What you
don't worry about it, Zanuck.
Zanuck, he doesn't want to say Zanuck. Okay, he doesn't want to say Zanuck. It's personal information.
You clearly have no experience in any of these arenas, yet you have such confidence that these things either don't exist or can't work by this lack of experience. It sounds like Dunning-Kruger personified, but correct me if I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
He's a professional sea lion.
That makes sense.
He just wants to ask endless questions and has no interest in the actual answers.
No, you guys make claims. You don't have evidence. I'm showing you that. I'm
Provided
exposing you guys.
Except for all the evidence that gets presented to you.
It's not even an attack on you guys. It's an attack on your arguments, so you guys can, think about it more logically and more intellectually and be honest.
Wait a minute.
You should be saying thank you.
We gave you are just what? What are all the links
thank
that
you
we
for
gave
the
you?
lulls.
What would you call those if you had to describe them?
Right, you wanted video of the pressure. I gave you the
Thank
video
you,
of the
percent,
pressure.
or whatever you want for keeping me honest. Thank you.
What would you call those videos?
Please get a word in edgeways. Please, just a second. I mean, the reason you're peeving people off is what you're doing is, we class knowledge as stuff as we've got reasonably good confidence in holding. And you're sort of pivoting between that and what's the fact of the matter. And that's kind of a bit of a slippery, naughty game. Because when you get down to it, there's not a whole lot of shit that we can actually prove if we want to be that pedantic.
That's not at all what I'm getting at. And I already, for instance, and I'll give you an example, Foolish, real quick. So Bio linked that video, and I said that's definitive evidence of something being launched into the air. It's not.
Okay, so let me step back from that, if I may. So you would agree there are a lot of videos, a lot of pictures, a lot of images that are claimed to be about satellites, from satellites, and we seem to have data that is claimed that comes from satellites that we use a lot.
Of course. Well, that's the claim.
We observe lots of things being launched up on rockets high up into the air, and some people use telescopes and film them.
Well,
And
not
they seem
that
to go-
many actually. They say that there's been like 20,000 satellites launched into orbit or whatever. They say that there's
Whatever.
been tens of thousands.
I don't want to get into these. Whether it's 500, 1,000, 10,000, doesn't matter. There's a lot. It's not like 4.
So in terms of actual launches, I don't think there's as many as they claim, but sure.
Whatever.
They happen.
I'm not claiming a figure. I say they happen many times in a year. Certainly during my lifetime.
I don't know about many times in a year, but they definitely happen. Continue.
So that's my claim.
Yeah, there are definitely launches. Continue.
So we've got A, B, C, D that we've just kind of all agreed on those points. And do you think that gives reasonable confidence, just all that sort of separate pieces of information correlating to a single conclusion that, hey, there's most likely some satellites up there?
No.
Run me through that logically.
Because there are evidence of some launches, right? That's all we know.
I'm saying multiple launches per year during my lifetime, and I'm old.
Well, I mean, I don't know about every year, but there are definitely some launches.
Every year.
Certainly
from the age of 5, every year, multiple launches.
Oh, well, if you could substantiate that, that'd be great. And what do you mean by multiple? Just like 2 or more?
I think sort of 4 or 5 at least. That we know of, definitely.
Probably. I'm not even. That's fine. But the point is, we don't know what's actually being launched, right? They claim they're satellites. All we have are claims to that end. They could be high altitude balloons. We know that we have that technology. We know we have weather balloons up there and stuff. So it could be that they're getting all this information, like these images that they're claiming are actual photographs from up above. that they're getting that from high-altitude balloons. We don't know. We need actual substantiation.
To support these could-bes, there has to be a major worldwide conspiracy in the lie, lasting generations.
Is it not possible?
What I want percentage.
Well, you tell me.
to do
You're claiming it is.
It's possible.
How?
What I want
mean
percentage to do.
Well,
is
was it's
point
like
me
this?
to
If we
the
can't
same
verify
level
it,
of
then there
proof-
is a worldwide
the
conspiracy,
same
isn't
level
there?
of proof
Let
that I-
Foolish.
Yeah, what I want,
Go
what I
ahead,
want
go ahead.
percentage to do is provide to me the same kind of level of observation that we've both agreed on happens for these Satelloons that are collecting this information. Now, I've had personal experience of the production lines of one of these establishments.
I didn't claim
Well, they
that they
claim
are
they do.
Satelloons collecting this information. I said it could be high altitude balloons. It could be the same technology as weather balloons. It could be that these images are. No, hold up. It could also be that these images aren't real, right? They could be doctored images or something. We don't know.
So show me why you want to take that conclusion with no evidence.
I'm not taking that conclusion. I'm saying there is no evidence, so we can't make a conclusion.
No, you are making a conclusion. You're making a conclusion.
What's my conclusion, Foolish?
You're making the conclusion that it is unreasonable to say that we have some confidence that satellites are up there doing what they say they do.
It's unreasonable to say that they are satellites without direct empirical evidence, direct definitive evidence.
No. I'm just saying from the evidence pieces that we had. I'm not saying definitively.
And yes, it is unreasonable.
Absolutely, utterly. I'm not saying this is the fact of the matter. I'm saying isn't all these different strings of evidence pointing to the same conclusion? Doesn't that make it a reasonable confidence to say that they're probably out there doing what they say they do?
No.
What would you put the confidence percent at?
No, because it is not beyond a reasonable doubt. So if it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, then it's therefore unreasonable. I know, but I'm saying there's a reasonable doubt. Hold up, there's reasonable doubt, and the fact that they didn't actually substantiate their the fact that their claims that they are satellites that are being launched.
What's
the
reasonable doubt? What's reasonable in this?
Yeah, can you
The doubt
substantiate?
is the lack of substantiation.
Give us some reasoning for the doubt.
Colleague.
The reasoning for the doubt is that there's no substantiation for the satellites. There's no substantiation that there's astronautics.
How's that reasonable? You just said no.
Akin to space.
I can see them. So I should conclude, looking up into space and seeing a satellite, the conclusion I should draw, being intellectually honest and reasonable, is there are no satellites in space. How the fuck? That's ridiculous.
You don't know that what you're seeing is the things that they claim are up in space, that they've put up in space.
So do.
This is a good degree of wishful thinking, percent.
What are they?
We can
You're actually pretending that in the 21st century, that the intellectually honest position to hold is that space flights aren't actually happening and might be high altitude balloons, but not actually saying they are, because then I'd have to provide some evidence for that. So I'm going to work with the idea that they are high altitude balloons. That's the reasonable, intellectually honest position for a person living in the 21st century to hold. You're ridiculous.
At what point
You're
did I
beyond
say
ridiculous.
space flights are not actually happening? When did I say
You might
that?
as well say the reasonable position for a person to hold is to dress like a clown and do handstands all day.
When did I say that they're not actually happening?
You said it's not reasonable to it's not reasonable to assume they are.
It's not reasonable. That doesn't mean that they're not actually happening.
Well, of course,
it's not reasonable to assume it.
But to say that it's not reasonable to think that they are is equivalent to making a stance that it's unlikely.
Again, that's not saying that they're not actually happening.
But no one's saying that. We're saying the unlikely is enough.
Yeah, and for me, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, so it's not reasonable to say that they are.
It's just dumb.
I would say that
we don't know.
You can't
Well,
use
you don't know.
reasonably
You don't know.
doubt
We
the
don't
term
know.
reasonable
You don't
doubt
know.
in an unreasonable sentence.
To any of you
But
guys,
also, by that same logic percent, you don't know anything because the criteria that you've now
it's not about
established.
that.
Hold on,
You
the
already
criteria that you've now established for you to know something is so absurd that there's literally nothing on the planet you could know because anything you show me, I could say, well, you don't know that wasn't doctored. You don't know that what you're looking at, what they say you're looking at.
This is the same argument that Foolish was going to start, and I nipped it in the
It's a valid and strong argument. It makes the point.
Bio's video is evidence, definitive evidence of launching something to the air. So we know some things. That's my standard. You know it already. So quit trying to make it about.
You don't know they're launching anything in the air. You're using your standard. You don't know what you're looking at. For all you know, that's an illusion.
Hold on 1 second. That was not my argument percentage. That's a straw man. Would you like to withdraw that and please restate it correctly?
If that wasn't your argument, then I apologize. What was your argument that you were trying to get at when you asked me?
So I made 4 points. I say, during my lifetime, I've observed many launches.
That's foolish. You had mentioned, well, you can't really prove anything, and then I said, well, that's not true because the video that Bio posted, I said it's definitive evidence of.
How do you know that's what they're saying is?
In the air. That was before you said your ABCD thing.
How do you know that's what he says it is, though?
Okay, sorry, I'm out of context. Ignore me. Carry the fuck on.
How do you know that's what he says it is, though? The video that he posted, you said it's definitive evidence. How do you know
they're angels.
He said it's going to space. We don't know.
So what do you know? So what do you know that's definitive evidence?
I could be a video editor. That could be CGI.
You could be.
What would be an example of definitive evidence for you?
In a reasonable doubt.
What would be an example of definitive evidence?
So that it's still reasonable because the doubt.
What would be an example of definitive evidence for you, percent?
He just said, Veach. He said if he showed the curvature with the satellite.
Damn, Chemo, you're not even a part of this. Calm down. Relax. Percent.
So what would be definitive evidence, percent?
What would you require?
Silence.
He's just told us, Veach. How many times you got to say it?
He hasn't said anything. He has no answer.
3 times now.
Anything.
So
he said when you show. Go on.
Of that being launched into the air was that video.
How do you know that's what he says it is? How do you know that is what he says he is? That's my question.
It's not. Again, Veach, you need to listen. I didn't say that's what that's what he said it was. He said it was launched into space. I'm saying it's definitive evidence that it was launched into the air.
How do you know that it's definitive evidence? How do you know that's something being launched in the air? How do you know that's what you think it is?
Because it satisfies my what's it called?
Threshold.
Like my doubt, my threshold.
How so? How is it any different than anything on video?
His intuition, his spidey senses.
Your criteria earlier was if it's on video, it might be faked, and you're right, it could be. So why couldn't that be faked?
It could have been, but again, it's not beyond
category of reasonable.
Are you claiming that it's beyond reasonable doubt to assume
that according to your criteria, if you're going to be consistent with it, you're going to have to exclude that from definitive evidence.
Launching things into the air is a verifiable thing.
You told us the video can't be trusted.
I've launched things into the air, so it's a verifiable thing.
The video can't be trusted because it might be faked. Okay,
we can launch things into the air.
Well, you can't trust video because it might be faked, and now you're looking at video and saying you can trust it.
Again, it's a question of whether it's a verifiable thing that's being depicted. So
I'd like to
it's a verifiable depiction that things are being launched into the air in that video. If assuming
it's a question of whether it's convenient to you or not.
That's not there's no barometer. There's nothing an accurate depiction of something being launched into outer space one time sent to the negative 17 Tor.
Is this video convenient to my belief? I believe it. If this video is inconvenient to my belief, then it could be fake.
Supports my bias. Oh, it must be real. Doesn't support my bias.
How about your intellectual honesty?
I'm not going to believe something without actual evidence.
How about evidence? For your intellectual honesty, what about Phil Keogh's video that he posted here? What do you think of that? What is your conclusion from it?
Check it out and I'll let you know.
Right. It's less than a minute, but I'm interested in your honest conclusion from it.
Like I keep saying, Chemo, the goal of Flat Earth these days is to know fuck all. The less things you can know, the better. That's your goal.
It's kind of the way, because what we talk about is a great reset, Jem. So what we're trying to say, I know you don't like it, but we're saying that everything is a lie. We have to reset, start again, we know nothing, and we start to build. How we do that, again, that's up for debate. But right now, we've been told lies. So
you don't, and we're seeing an illustration of this now. You don't do that. You operate as if all the things that we believe to be true are true. You, in exactly the same way as we do. You accept evidence for things, the existence of things, in exactly the same way as we do. You just pretend that you don't at moments that are convenient to you. And that's why Percent is quite happy to reject video on the one hand and then just include it as part of an argument. On the other hand, when it's useful to him, it's okay. When it's not, he rejects it.
I think it's been an adequate amount of time. Percent, do you have any thoughts on that video?
I'm halfway through it.
I mean, again, like I've said many times, we don't take pleasure in this. Well, at least I try not to.
Okay.
And show that. You ready? Yeah, you ready?
Yeah,
I don't know how you could.
Just again, I'll say it's like legitimate, definitive evidence of something of this rocket being launched.
I've noticed there's this new word to your argument today, which is definitive. And I also noticed that you slipped up earlier and used empirical instead, and then had to change to definitive because you knew that we could just say, well, I could see a satellite, and that would be empirical evidence of it. So then you switched to this nebulous term of definitive.
No, they go hand in hand.
You know, it was like validation and verification. None of them. What does it mean? It's like you're saying there's some sort of government office I can go to somewhere where I can get a definitive certificate for my evidence. This is definitive evidence, you see.
Yeah, but they're not mutually exclusive.
Empirical is not definitive.
They're not mutually exclusive. I could say definitive.
No, they are mutually
exclusive. They don't discount each other.
No, they are. Empirical is not definitive.
Empirical is not definitive?
Of course not.
Really?
Yeah, of course not.
So there's nothing that could be empirical and definitive. That's what you're claiming?
Oh, that's what he said. He said
Empirical does not mean definitive.
I didn't say that. Every time somebody says something to you, you always do this reversal where you try and get them to make a claim that they didn't say.
Jem,
you do it every time. You do it it's like almost every exchange that you have involves you doing that.
Yeah,
so you're claiming that this then?
No. You said I will use the word instead, as in they can't be used together.
And when is it necessarily?
What's wrong with using them together, Jem?
Nothing is wrong with using them together. Nothing.
Okay, so I didn't slip up by saying empirical. Everything you see is empirical.
No, you didn't. You didn't use them together. You didn't use them together. You went empiric, definitive.
Maybe I just meant to say them both together.
Halfway through the word and then corrected yourself.
I didn't correct myself. Maybe I just added the other word because to make it more clear, more distinctive, more definitive, if you will.
Regardless, the definitive is a new qualification that you've added to your argument. What the fuck does it mean? What makes something definitive? Is it just arbitrarily? Is it arbitrarily decided by you, or are there a set of rules that we can follow to see if our evidence meets this qualification?
Well, it depends on the thing, I would say.
Right, so it's arbitrarily decided by you. How convenient!
I'd say so.
Percent.
But yeah, it's common sense and it depends on the context. So, for instance, this video that Phil Kao posted, I would say that's definitive evidence of a rocket going up into the air. And
what do you think about
I know it's common idiocy, definitely not common sense.
I think there's one thing I've learned: common sense does not exist.
I think we can infer. I think we can infer a little more than that. We can.
If I see the magic,
the exhaust towards the end of that video getting wider and wider and wider, more and more rapidly. So I'd definitely say that we know we're getting into very low pressure.
Yeah, throw that against him. I have definitive evidence because it's empirical that jet stream or that exhaust coming off the jet is in a vacuum because I see it. It's empirical evidence. So therefore, it is definitive. So you're
also, Zanuck, you're forgetting. You can arbitrarily declare which evidence is definitive and which is not. So you win right there.
You guys love the word arbitrary, eh?
He's just slashing his own throat.
Percentage was shown measurements of a round Earth, which is empirical. That makes it definitive.
There we go.
Congratulations.
There we go.
Club, buddy.
I know.
See, now, percentage, you see what's the problem? You've gotten to the point where you now make 0 sense. Everything you say is contradictory.
No, you guys
just
can
say
add
now,
as much as you
that's
want.
your argument.
Arguments from emotion as much as you want.
I'm not arguing from emotion at all. I'm giving you empirical evidence of your idiocy.
You're not actually. Let's try this.
Turning your arguments around on yourself is not an ad hom. It shows how weak your arguments are.
Okay, go ahead. What's my argument?
You don't have an argument. Yeah, you don't have one, exactly.
You don't know anything about anything, do you?
Non-existent
That's your intellectually honest position, remember?
You don't
know what anything is.
Differentiated.
But you don't know what anything is, but everything's probably something else. That's essentially your argument.
That's actually really good.
Yeah, well, you've got to admit your last statement was an opinion. It wasn't really an argument.
What last
was
statement?
The one where you're saying that they were all being very emotional and all that shit.
That's where Jam goes straight with the juggling, you know. You don't know what anything is, but your argument is everything else.
It's the 5 years, probably. You know what I mean? It's worn through my thick skin.
I want to test our honest percentage.
Can we look at it like this? Percent. Is it possible to look at it like this? You know when we say?
I guess I wasn't talking. Go ahead, Chemo. It's all you. Chemo show.
Yeah, when we say we see like flat horizon. That's empirical. But it's not definitive. Or would you say it's definitive? So what they're saying is it could be curved. It's just that it just looks like that because that's what we observe.
You say whichever one you like, Kimo, because you decide what's definitive.
Yeah, but that's what I'm just saying that I think there's a. Zanik, hold on a second, Zanik. Zanik, I'm talking. I'm just trying to clarify myself.
Let him.
I'm just trying to clarify myself because I thought there was a slight difference. I'm not sure. So like I said, I thought it was. You see something like the satellite, that's light in the sky, so you see it, but it's not definitive what it is. So like the horizon, we see it, we observe it, but is it clear? Is it absolute? Is how I thought. What do you think? I don't know.
No, I would agree. Like you can't say that it's definitively a flat and motionless Earth, but you can say it's definitively an observably flat and motionless Earth.
No, you can't. That's a contradictory statement.
I say it's empirically observable.
Oh, you're saying anecdotal. So that's anecdotal evidence.
That's for our observation.
Empirical would be doing tests.
But until
tests,
we
you
actually
can prove that it is curved. Can I finish? Now I'm talking, and now you're talking over me.
Well, I was responding to
So
Chemo.
you can actually test it. You can measure it. It'll be curved. Your anecdotal evidence.
Prove it then.
Hold on. Why are you talking?
You made a claim. Prove it.
Your own. I can. I have. Your anecdotal evidence. If someone told me that I'm not moving, I kind of believe them. So I guess that's the evidence I'm going to go with. That's anecdotal evidence.
Wrong. No one has to tell you.
Logical evidence, and empirical evidence is what I kind of lean toward. So when I measure mountains that are below other mountains that are twice as far away and twice as high, or if I measure horizon drop from an airplane, or if I drop a ball, or I weigh something in flight, I mean, all a focal pendulum, the list goes on and on. That's not only empirical, that's logical evidence.
Dude, you can claim it as much as you want, but you're
not claim. It's measurements. It's evidence.
You have no definitive evidence.
You're saying empirical is definitive.
You have no definitive evidence of the curve. I didn't say definitive.
What is it worth,
I never said that. Don't lie.
If you decide
exclusive, I actually argued against that.
But if you decide what definitive is, what the hell is it worth?
I don't
other
decide
than your opinion.
I have to concede that, like with the Cavendish, we don't know what's attracting and what, because we don't know what mass is. But it's probably something.
Of course, we know what mass is.
We know it's not that. We don't know if it's we don't know if it's mass attracting mass, but we do know that it could be something else. Like because it could be the universe spinning around us, and that's what's causing it. I don't know. Like,
remove the masses. Will it move after
a
period of time, or will it find equilibrium and not move?
Yeah, apparently airs going together. Apparently, in your model, everything's
do your experiment. Do your deductive reasoning.
Get a fucking sentence out of this fucking guy. Well done, Xanax. Talk everyone. Xanax, keep doing it. Keep it up, Xanax.
You were just on a big long sentence. It didn't stop.
Just keep it up, man. Just talk over everyone, man.
Tough guy. Go ahead.
I am a tough guy, man. You're just a bulldozer.
Oh, really? You aren't? You came in here like a freaking bull in a china shop.
No, I'm laughing, man. Off this fucking hilarious comedy.
I'm laughing. This is entertainment. Listening to Percentage talk over himself for 2 hours is quite entertaining, and it passes the time.
Okay,
what's the biggest overtalker here?
Exactly. And no one else ever taught me just until Zach did it first. But what is it that he presents actually arguing right now? What's he denying or whatever?
He's just picking and choosing what type of evidence he accepts.
What's his bar? What's the bar? What's the evidence?
The newest thing, Brummy, is that they have an issue with the word definitive. They think definitive evidence is like some sort of subjective thing. They don't know what definitive means.
Oh, tell us! Please do tell. What does it mean?
It means that it could be nothing else. It's evidence that.
And that's not true of anything, is it? So that's. Silly.
What about the?
I was just about to say that as well, there, percent that nothing for them is definitive because for them it could be something else.
Nothing external to oneself.
They're not 100% on anything in their science.
I think you can definitively have.
But that's why I say it's within the reasonable doubt. If you can't say beyond reasonable. I mean, beyond reasonable, obviously it would be
So now it's defined as within reasonable doubt.
Yeah, because you're not.
It's not going to be definitive.
Hold on, you didn't say reasonable doubt. You said doubt.
Exclusive.
You said it. You didn't say it has to be beyond reasonable doubt. That you said it has to be.
Hold on, foolish. Didn't I say that?
Hang on.
Didn't I say that?
You said there has to. No, you said that. You said there has to be no doubt.
No, I did not say that.
Well, I think that's what your definition of definitive. Didn't allow for any doubt at all.
Said multiple times.
You said it has
beyond a reasonable doubt. I said it would be his thing would be unreasonable because it goes past the reasonable doubt.
But you just said with definitive, it has to be this. It can't be anything else.
Within a reasonable doubt.
I can't remember exactly what your definition was, but it didn't include reasonable.
What else do you just subjectively, arbitrarily decide randomly?
So again,
think it is
if it's beyond reasonable doubt, that and definitive, those are two mutually exclusive.
So now you need to define what is your criteria for reasonable doubt.
It depends on the thing, right?
Decide at the moment.
Let's say satellites. Like, why don't we do the satellite thing?
Okay, so satellites, if there's no empiric evidence of it even being able to work in a vacuum chamber akin to space.
There is empirical evidence.
No, I disagree with satellites being empirical.
No, they're repeatable. We can test that.
You're free to your opinion.
We know how vacuums work. We can see all this. It's all empirical evidence.
Well, what empirical evidence you got? That things flying around, right?
3 videos from 3 amateur astronomers. They have nothing to do with flat Earth whatsoever. Where they're taking observations of the ISS. They're tracking it. They're filming it, so it's empirical. The last video I did, actually, the guy shows one of the methods that he uses to control his telescope and how he actually does all this. So do you think we now have some reasonable evidence to start saying they're filming an object up there? We claimed we launched it up into space. It's exactly the shape we expect it to be. Looks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
All right, so we claimed we launched into space.
Probably
that we actually did, right? So it's possible that we.
I've seen video of them launching some of the components up there. I didn't see them load the exact things onto. They didn't tell me what the payload is.
There's video of them launching them out of the bay of the shuttle too, though.
But also the speeds, the size, everything.
Yeah, they built a fucking station.
Y'all didn't give Dress a chance to finish this. Quacks like a duck, looks like a duck. Then you go on to eats like a duck or tastes like a duck. But in this case, you can't actually go there, right? You can't actually taste it for yourself. So might not be a duck. Might be a duck.
I only believe things are ducks if I can eat them.
Might be a fake duck going quack quack.
Yeah, I definitely wait until I've tasted each duck before I accept that it's a duck. That's reasonable.
Well, we were talking about satellites, right? We were putting quacks like a duck to satellites, but we can't quite touch and feel the satellites.
I stopped chewing things to recognize them when I was about 3 months old.
There's 2 other things, foolish.
Yeah, I just want to quickly finish the point that Rakia wanted me to do. So yeah, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, blah blah blah. Just 2 words of advice: never get involved with any radioactive substances, because if you've got to touch it and taste it, that's bad. And certainly don't play with cyanide. Thank you.
Right.
Go on,
so to add to Rakia's thing of that, we can't directly verify it. There's 2 questions you need to ask yourself. Number 1. Is it possible that could be up in the air through a different mechanism, through a different functionality, a different way?
No.
It's not possible.
No,
Wait.
because it's been measured.
No. I'm not even going to any of that. All I'm saying is that it's up there. It seems to be, what it says it's the right sort of shape. It's tracked. We get the regular information on it. I compare that with other fellow astronomers around the world, and they can see it as well. I'm not saying how it's up there. I'm just saying it's up there.
I know, and I'm saying
no more claims than that.
I know, foolish, and I'm saying there's two questions aside from Rukia's highlighting that you can't actually verify. It's unverifiable information. But there's two questions you need to ask yourself. Number one, could it be up there? Is it possible for it to be up there through other means? And number two, is it possible that we observed it up there and then made the ISS observed something we didn't know what it was or anything, and then we made the ISS look like it?
No, those are not reasonable.
No,
those are possible for that.
Because for me to conclude that, so I've got all this evidence that's kind of pointing in one direction towards we seem to stick it on top of stuff and explode it up into space, and somehow it gets there, or whatever's up there.
Did you not hear Veach's question, Druss?
Well, assuming what?
From Druss's logic, right? The moon landing looks like a fake. The moon landing looks fake, smiles fake. So it's probably fake.
Real.
Yeah, but Veach is asking percent if it's possible.
I wasn't sure if Chemo was giving you some nod direction.
It's real.
So I just want to hear his nod direction. Sorry, Chemo, what were you saying?
Yeah, you didn't hear Veach ask percent a question. Is it possible?
It's possible that there's another alternative way that we just faked it like that.
It's possible, right?
It's totally possible.
I would like to say thank you to Chemo for doing it that way. That was much better, and I would prefer if he did it this way in the future. And I will listen to him when he's modding.
I think it's easier to fake than it wasn't meant to go there, man. So
So percent, you said is it possible that they put something like the ISS up in the sky through other means? What does that even mean? What other possibilities could there be?
Like quantum locking, like a large piece of metal that's not aerodynamic, that's supposed to be going through a vacuum of space, traveling at 17,000 miles an hour. They're shooting rockets up there, getting in time with it, catching up with it, and sticking parts to it over and over and over long periods of time. And you look at the footage from there, and it just looks like a green screen. There's like a fucking luminous planet. They're like, oh, look how amazing that is. There's a bunch of actors. Sorry, that's just what I see.
You can say whatever you want. That doesn't make it reasonable.
The hair of the woman.
Please answer the question. How do you think they got something
his
in the
answer?
sky?
The woman's hair looks stuck up like it's a horror movie.
Exactly.
Rami, you were changing the subject. Please stop doing that. Percent, could you please answer my question?
Yeah, what was wrong with his answer?
Because he fucking strayed from the question.
Yeah, he gave you an answer right from the get-go. Right from the get-go, he said quantum locking is a possible thing that they could be doing.
Superfluid.
What?
Projection.
What?
So
What is
quantum locking. So let me get this straight. Quantum locking would explain how we can see something like the ISS in the sky and have been able to measure that it's 250 miles in the sky. Quantum locking can do that?
Maybe, but what we're trying to do right here is a shifting of the burden of proof.
No.
The Earth is a planet.
No, because this is the claim of the globe model. You're saying that thing is up there. You have to substantiate it. Like they say it time and time again, falsification is independent of replacement. So it's our burden of proof to prove it, bro.
Yes, but if you're going to propose quantum locking as an alternative, hang on. If you're going to propose quantum locking as an alternative, then you've got to show us how that would work.
Basically, low temperatures are making a reaction from the the electrical thing that the Earth has. The Earth has like some sort of electrical magnet field. So we just learned how to account for it.
You only have to show that alternative after
pressure.
Let Robbie keep going.
You
only have to establish
all these things.
Go ahead, Rukia.
Combine all these things in a lab like they're doing with C4. With helium-4. Now they're saying helium-4 is what happens in the upper atmosphere conditions. So put it under pressure under certain temperatures, and voila, you got yourself some type of fluid that seems to be able to do some strange things. Add some electricity to that in some whatever way that's happening up there. We don't know.
No, flux pinning is a phenomenon.
In quantum locking, does the quantum lock device follow the magnetic field?
It doesn't matter, bro.
You're just saying
It doesn't
quantum
matter.
locking. It could be something like that. We're saying we have all the
phenomenon where a superconductor is pinned above a magnet. Superconductor must be a type 2 conductor, must be a type 2 conductor, because type 1 conductors cannot penetrate the magnetic fields. So we know we can do something with magnetic fields, making things fly above the air, and it looks weightless and it moves seamlessly, effortless through the sky. That would be consistent with what we see. Thank you.
Yeah,
and you can levitate things with different chemical reactions.
It's beyond the scope of the argument.
And the
you only have to
quantum
come up
locked
with an alternate
object.
hypothesis when you guys have established that this thing is a fact. But right now, your thing that it's a satellite in space, that's the alternate hypothesis because you guys haven't proven it yet. It's still a hypothesis.
Well, you haven't come up with a reasonable alternative yet either. You say it could be you say it could be something else, but you don't propose anything else that actually works. If you're going to propose, not finished. If you're going to propose that it's not that, show that it could be something else, and show that something else could possibly work. You cannot finish yet. I'm not fucking finished yet. Stop. Right? You propose that it could be quantum locking, and yet quantum locking doesn't suit the thing because in a quantum locked object, the object follows the magnetic field. We know what the shape of the magnetic field is, and an orbit is not that shape. If it was a quantum locked object, it would crash into the poles.
Again, it's completely, absolutely irrelevant. You understand that, right? You can't shift.
No, I don't understand that. You can't. No.
You talk. So
shits all over your parade.
you have not substantiated that it's a satellite. Okay?
Yes,
you made the alternate hypothesis, you made the claim, and you haven't substantiated it. You don't have to provide any alternative.
By amateur photographers to be 250 miles in the sky and traveling at 7 miles per second. That is impossible in atmosphere. It has been proven that it is in space. Whether or not someone's in there, you can make an argument. It has been proven to be in space.
You can claim that I haven't. You can claim that I haven't substantiated that it is, but you haven't substantiated that it isn't.
Again,
That's your burden of proof.
There's no burden of proof on the negative.
Yes, there is, because if we say you are making the claim that it isn't. Yours is a positive claim.
They're shooting rockets up in the air. They're shooting rockets up in the air. Hold on. They're shooting rockets up in the air in your face, right? And you haven't got no clue what they're doing or what they're doing when they go up there. They could be literally going into a different medium. They could be going up and, fucking doing anything. Or they could be leaving, going to a different planet. And hold on. They could be going to a different planet for all you know, and then just coming back and going, oh yeah, we just went some time in space. You haven't got a fucking clue what's going up there, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. You ain't got a clue, mate.
Well, what you say empirical evidence is that we cannot have an object going through the atmosphere at 17,000 miles an hour without burning up almost instantly, and yet we measure this to be almost exactly that 17,000 to 17,500 mile an hour range. We measure it.
What about a frictionless fluid? What about a frictionless fluid?
Why are you talking over me? So you talking about me talking over you, and yet all I hear is you guys talking over each other.
You're inserting the atmosphere. That's insane.
Stop it.
Let him finish.
Stop it. So we measure this object going 17,000 miles an hour. We know it cannot be in our atmosphere and go 17,000 miles an hour.
No one said it was in
our
atmosphere.
Pardon me?
No one said it was in our atmosphere.
If it's not in atmosphere, then it's in a vacuum.
So it's in vacuum. Good. You're making progress. Good for you. And so we can also measure its distance, 230 miles up in the air. We can verify that very easily.
Wait, what? What was that? Hold on. What do you say? The ISS is what? In where?
230 miles up in the air.
In the atmosphere.
Above the atmosphere, above the ground.
What do you mean above? How can it be above the atmosphere?
That it's not in our atmosphere, it's in space.
What do you mean above?
No perfect vacuum, so even space is atmosphere.
How do you mean above the atmosphere? So what is above?
Everything above the Earth is the atmosphere.
Zanik, can I ask you a question? So you've got the atmosphere, and you're saying above that is what? Exactly, more atmosphere.
You go beyond our atmosphere.
Vacuum of space.
The vacuum of space. Well, the gas would fill the space, wouldn't it?
No,
space,
it would not.
Space and the atmosphere have a blurred meeting, don't they? We can actually see the atmosphere go down exponentially as you go higher. So eventually there is nothing around this object, and that's why it can go 17,000 miles an hour. We know this because we cannot put an object in the air, in the atmosphere, and have it go 17,000 miles an hour without burning up. So we know that it is in space. We know it's in part of the atmosphere or space that has no molecules to run into. Because if it ran into things, it would slow down. And by the way, we know there's a few molecules up there, and it does run into things, and it does slow down very, very slightly. And we kick it up a little notch to go faster occasionally to keep it from falling to the earth.
No, yeah, that's part of your models, then. That's not reality.
But that's how we measure it. He talked about empirical evidence. We have empirical evidence that is going 17,000 miles an hour. That is 230 miles high. We measure these things.
I'm sure you got a story of why it doesn't continue to gain momentum and can just spin around and fucking go to 1,000 million miles per
How
hour.
does it gain momentum, Broomy? You're using words you don't understand.
Dropping down over the curve into the earth. Hold on. This fucking jabroni just said I don't know what momentum is. Well, obviously, it's the fucking momentum that I'll use to fucking swing this shit right into your face, mate. The fucking thing is swinging around the planet, gaining fucking dropping down around the curve.
Not gaining momentum.
Gaining. So there's a constant force pulling down, and it's falling away. So you keep talking over me while I talk. This is your tactic. This is your tactic. This is your tactic. As it's falling around the earth, as you keep talking over me,
Xanax, you need to stop.
Xanax, shut the fuck up. You need to stop, Xanax. Control yourself.
No, you're not buying, Xanax. That's why everybody's telling you you're not buying.
So because you need to give me the rope to hang myself. You know that's what Curve's saying. He wants to hear it. But as this is falling around the curve, as it's going forward, it's also dropping. So it's never dropping in altitude. So it's always gaining. It's always getting a bit of pull from the gravity, and it's also falling forward. So it continuously goes round. So why is it just gaining fucking speed?
What is falling, Bromy?
Oh well, it's the way I describe it. It's like you know.
Let's relish in the glory
you could take a class on orbital mechanics and learn why it's not gaining.
No, not really. No, I don't really need that. I'm pretty prime with the information I got. Thanks.
So you have an opportunity to take classes and learn about it, but you'd rather not because you think you know
everything.
No. Got it.
No, I never said that. That's what you put in your mouth. And I've asked you a question about it. So just answer the question instead of being a little prick. How's that?
Well, the answer would be it's not gaining momentum. You've got it wrong.
Okay, so explain what's going on then. Explain how it's falling around a curve and not gaining speed.
Because it's going in an orbit.
Yeah, okay. So it's going around
and
around.
In other words, you need to learn about orbital mechanics.
Because the velocity.
No, what you need to do is explain why it's not gaining speed.
Well, I'm trying.
It's not moving down, Bromy. That's what orbiting means.
No, I'm trying to, but there's like 3 or 4 goons jumping in. You explain to me why it's not gaining speed.
I'm trying to give you an explanation, but you keep on banging off. Right.
All right. No one else is talking, just me. That's brilliant.
He's going to respond to you, though, Brummy.
Yeah, I'm trying to actually give you an answer.
Yeah.
You're willing to listen? Right. It's
yes,
not,
sir.
It's not gaining momentum because the velocity is tangential to the acceleration. That's why it's not gaining momentum.
So it's going 17,000 miles per hour. It's not gaining anymore.
That's right. It's not.
So it's like it's like max velocity as well as it's falling around. So it's equilibrium now. Even though you have to keep boosting up every now and then, you have to keep giving it a little bit more boost to stop the orbit from going too close.
Down a little bit.
It's like going around the corner in a car and keeping a constant mile per hour.
It seems like it's falling around. I think it's actually not going around the corner because it's turning sideways. It's more like you're falling down by this gravity force pulling you down, and you're going forward.
It is actually
pulling around a curve.
It's almost the exact same, like, sort of mechanics. It's just a different direction.
What do you think would happen if, let's just say orbits happen. What do you think would happen if we sped the ISS up, we made it go faster?
Well, you said there's no debris up there, there's no air up there, so there'd be no friction and nothing else. It would just basically go... All right, so you need to talk halfway through an explanation. That's brilliant.
Pretty sure he was just affirming what you were saying. So
no, he doesn't need to. I'm saying that he's asking me what it would do. Half, like literally 2 sentences out. Yeah, and it's like fucking everyone's having a go at the same time. Just chill, lads. Okay. Yeah, victim card again. I guess nothing to do with you like being fucking jabronis.
That's what you played.
Yeah, people do that when they're talking. Sometimes they affirm what you're saying as you continue to talk. It happens. You could stop bitching about it and continue talking.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Spend the next 5 minutes bitching about it, which you've done before.
Yeah.
Your call.
Okay, so 10 people have a go. 10 people have a go at one person, and then one person gets quite annoyed with everyone constantly jumping in. It doesn't really matter if you just agree with me. It's another sound halfway through what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just another. So usually, maybe you should look at the actions of others. Yeah. Maybe you should look at the actions of others instead of looking at the person. Oh, look at being a victim again. Maybe you're being a jabroni. Maybe you're being a jabroni.
Yeah.
Are you gonna move forward? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say all this started off from was me agreeing with you and saying, yeah.
No, Dross. It's not that simple because everyone else has been jumping in for the last 10 minutes, all aggravating and coming up with different rebuttals.
Card again.
There we go. Yes, you're innocent then. You're absolutely innocent. That's why everybody gets frustrated when they're talking to a bunch of people at the same time. And you just want to point out the fact that, oh, look, that time we would have done it wrong. The boy that cries wolf, right? You are like the boy that cries wolf.
There's a question from Druss. There's a question from Druss, if anyone wants to answer it. What would happen if it went faster than the speed that's going at ISS?
Well, apparently there's no air up there or anything like that to slow it down. There's no friction, so it just continues to gain momentum, in my opinion. But they say it doesn't. Say that it basically reaches an equilibrium. Like they're saying it's reached its sort of maximum speed, 17,000 miles an hour, ripping around, covering vast distances, and we just get a rocket, and we just catch up to it, and we just attach things to it. It's amazing.
Well, let's say it went 18,000.
So that was an argument from incredulity. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let's just say we brought it up to 18, 19, 20,000 miles an hour. What would happen to its orbit in relation to Earth?
I personally think there's nothing to stop it out there. There's no friction, and it would continue to gain speed. But you guys think it's reached its max speed?
I'm specifically talking about its orbit. Do you think its orbit would change?
What do you mean? Like the orbital path? If it continue getting more speed?
Gain or lose altitude?
Rumi, if you had a ball on a spring and you spun that thing around your head, what would happen to the orbit?
He's got it. Leave him. Done. Good son.
No, well, carry on, Nick.
No, we're still waiting.
You've got this, Brummy. You've got this. You know this in your head. You know the answer.
17,000 miles an hour is your comfort zone. Any more, then you will tend to gain altitude and probably you'll probably end up slowing down after you've gone too far away from a gravitational pull, or you'll just spin out into space. And too slow, then you drop down into the Earth's atmosphere.
Big brain on Brummy. How did that happen?
Wow, that was good.
Yay!
Now, if you can just discern between momentum and velocity, we might have somewhere.
Even a blind chicken finds a corn sometimes.
Sorry, I was rude to you there. I apologize. That was
no, I don't mind. I don't mind being told to be quiet. I have no problem with that. So
no, it was the sit down, good Zanuck. That was the disrespectful bit. The first bit, I was right.
No, that's fine. Quick is. I get to the point. I mean, it's all a big shit show out here. I get it. So, Broomy, you have to understand why things fall.
So what do you use for space brakes?
Well, when things are in the atmosphere, they would burn up going that fast, as I mentioned earlier. And they go high enough, there's no atmosphere or very, very little atmosphere, and they don't burn up. They're going 17,000 miles an hour, but yet we can track them very accurately around the Earth because it has a period of about 90 minutes. Every 90 minutes, you'll see this thing that's going 17,000 miles an hour.
Lovely story. What do you use for space brakes?
That'd be a rocket.
Space brakes? What are space brakes?
To stop it from gaining that momentum and then flying off into the imaginary planets.
So you fire little rockets to slow the object down
into the atmosphere.
So a couple of air thrusters.
Yeah, they're like jets.
Yeah, you fire them into the atmosphere, Brummy, and they control the direction.
Traveling around,
they break on nothingness.
No, they press on the atmosphere. Of course.
You were confusing speed with velocity.
I ain't confusing shit, mate. You're confusing fucking air.
All the planets are imaginary.
Momentum. You said momentum. You said it should be increasing momentum. So you are confused.
But you also said there was no momentum. Hold on. You also said earlier, well, you mean momentum, bro? There's no momentum. Now you're going, you're right about momentum. Which one is it?
No, the momentum does not change. Why would it change?
So what do you use for space brakes?
Space brakes thrusters are used for space brakes.
There's an easy way to think about this. What we do is we throw mass in the direction that we want to change the velocity in. So if we want to move down, we throw stuff up. If we want to move up, we throw stuff down. If we want to go faster, we throw stuff behind us. If we want to slow down, we throw stuff in front of us.
Perfect, Broomy.
Can I ask you a question?
One other thing I want to talk to Broomy about. One other thing. Broomy. Do you not agree that these objects are up there that are traveling 17,000 miles?
We see something up there, but is there people flying around with their gelled up hair, acting like they're fucking doing science experiments in the middle of fucking?
You can videotape them.
Oh, thanks for interrupting. Yeah, doesn't mean that people are there. See something up there doesn't mean people are on that. That's
We see the space shuttle docking. It's the dimensions we should expect it to be.
You see that shit. I don't see that shit.
We see the SpaceX capsule docking. We take pictures of that.
Lovely.
See it.
I see that you can't go back to the moon. That's what I see.
We see it. Now, see, you're talking over me now. Backdrop of the moon, backdrop of the sun. We see it, and we measure it. We know what's happening, Broomy. Why is this so hard to grasp?
Look, Zanik, we've got questions, and Raki's got a question. You should be answering these questions from our side, because you're the guys with the information. So I don't know, Raki, you still got that question if you want to ask it.
Sure, it's
So
a question.
I'd like to ask Zanuck, what happens to chemicals when you compress them with air? If
They
you
get
compress
compressed.
a gas, if you can compress a gas, does it turn to a liquid?
It can.
Okay, and when you add heat, pressure, and things like that to a liquid, can it turn into a gas?
Depends on the pressure. Depends on the liquid.
Okay, fair enough. So if you take like a chemical, I don't know, let's say like helium, and send it
Okay.
up to a certain pressure and temperature, you think it could turn into something else?
Nope.
It can't?
No.
Why not?
Because you need greater pressure to make it into something else. There's
How
only
greater?
matter. There's liquid, there's gas, there's solid.
Hmm. Go ahead.
We've
How much greater
another
pressure?
3 now.
How is this gas going to turn into anything else by going up into an area of lower pressure?
Oh, maybe it's something else adding to it, right? What
No,
else? What else can be added to it to enhance that?
So we know the state of matter. We know it causes things to change state very well. There's no way, there's not even an imagination that you may have that could think of a helium gas turning to something else, which is two other options, and you probably know what those options are, right? If it's a gas, what else could it be? A solid or a liquid? So what conditions would have to be present for it to turn into a gas, into a solid or a liquid?
It could be what they're calling a super liquid or it's super fluid. I'm sorry, that's different.
It is different.
Yeah, you see, we know we can measure things like this in a laboratory. We can actually work with helium in a
Hang on
laboratory.
one second before you jump in
Hang on,
here.
I'm still talking.
Kinda talking
No,
to Zanuck about
you're jumping in on me, mate. All right, let me finish.
Yeah, don't mute this
Rude,
guy
rude.
during our questions.
Hey, I said we can work with helium in a laboratory. We can measure under what conditions it's a liquid and under what conditions it's a gas and under what conditions the things are solid. And we can do that repeatedly and come up with something called a phase diagram. We know under what conditions and temperatures and pressures things will be liquid, solid, and gas. And we know that under those circumstances out in the vacuum of space that helium is not going to be anything but a gas.
Paul is kind of better than
Different
Zanuck.
phases of
He's a
helium.
physics teacher.
He learned about helium-4, and now he's all excited about applying it to this argument. I think that's
No, I
kind of cute.
also read an article,
Paul, you
Zanuck,
just get
lately
too
that
angry,
they're
that's
finding
all.
helium-4 up in the upper atmosphere when they talk about superfluids.
That's true.
So it is true.
What does helium-4 do in the upper atmosphere?
Condenses under pressure and heat and electricity to a superfluid.
What
Change,
kind of pressure
phase
do you need?
change. I think they call it the
pressure-
phase change.
And what pressure do you need to achieve that?
Shit, I don't know. You can ask those scientists that are stating it and spouting it off.
That's Paul. Paul's a scientist.
You need
They're
high
calling
pressure.
it superfluid, I believe.
Curious
No, you're
question.
referring to-
Do you
you're referring to
understand what a
space no.
superfluid is?
He's
Yeah,
conflating two different arguments. He's
trying to
conflating
help
two
me.
different articles. He's talking about one article that says that space may have superfluid-like properties when it comes to the calculation for certain things, and then he's throwing that on top of there is helium-4, and therefore he's come to the conclusion that the upper atmosphere and space is made out of superfluid helium-4. It's really stupid. It's not true. He needs to stop it.
Yeah, this is the logic that
Stop theorizing where all the helium goes.
Words, they string them together and they think they have. You put a hat on, you're not a cowboy.
How did he arrive at this
that we have
conclusion?
helium, large amounts of it. It's one of the lighter gases, right?
But do we have the
nitrogen
pressure?
is the only lighter one, so it rises up and goes up there, and then we know we have certain pressure and electromagnetism and static electricity that happens in the upper atmosphere, and then we have extreme heat exchanges, heat and cold. So you're talking about scientists now. I'm not making this up, right? These are
But
scientists.
do we have
people
the
that
pressure required?
They're saying we do, right?
You don't
No,
understand
they don't say every other pressure required to generate massive amounts of helium-4 superfluid. They do not say that.
So is it producing small amounts then?
I could see something like a lightning strike potentially giving you enough pressure, but you need to have something so there needs to be something ionized for it to be striking against.
So not just the field, not just the electric field or magnetic fields that we have at these pressures and temperatures could do it, right? You know this for a fact.
No, I don't. I'm just postulating. I know with
Fair
lightning
enough.
strikes on. I know with
You
lightning
don't know
strikes
it as a
on
fact.
Earth.
Yeah.
I know with lightning strikes on Earth, it can create extreme pieces of pressure. You get what's called a Z pinch effect.
Correct. They make glassware out of it and stuff, but you don't know what's going on up there. Would you agree with that? With all the
Me personally,
different fields that we obviously have.
Very, very little knowledge, to be fair.
Right. Well, that's the study that's going on, right?
Documentary.
Yeah, that's the study that's going on. Not by me, by leading scientists, people you trust.
Does it say where this study is actually occurring?
I posted it the other day, but I'll try and find it again for you since y'all seem to like that. So it is possible, right?
Ricky,
I have one other question.
Ricky, I've just posted a phase diagram for helium. You might like to take a look at it and notice under what temperatures it becomes a superfluid. That would be like 0.001 degrees Kelvin.
That's just temperature, right?
The atmosphere doesn't reach that temperature.
Yeah, that's
way
just
too
under
low.
temperature there, genius. Yeah, put it under pressure with everything else
You'll
that's
also
happening. The
notice
temperature might come down.
You'll
Right?
notice that the vertical
Come
axis
on, man, you
that
can't treat me like
you'll
that.
notice that the vertical axis on that phase diagram tells you what pressure is required to do that too.
Okay, I have one more question for Xanax since he brought this up. The air
Jesus, a
brakes.
minimum of 20 atmospheric pressures? That's a
I'm
lot.
almost done. This is my last question, Xanax. You there?
I'm here.
Okay, so you said air brakes, you have to use thrusters, right, to brake something because the atmosphere doesn't have a whole lot of pressure when you gain altitude. Is that
There's
correct?
nothing
So the
else
higher
for-
you go in altitude, there's nothing really to brake against, right?
The atmosphere goes down exponentially as you go higher. We all know that.
Correct. At what height would you need to use thrusters and not like an air brake? Do you know?
Anything probably in the declaration of where space is above 60 kilometers, 60 miles.
So above 60 miles? Okay,
We've
thanks.
flown the X-15 at 300,000 feet.
Yeah, I was just wondering that rocket that we saw.
I'm talking, and the only way we can control it at that altitude was to use thrusters to control it because it wasn't flying any longer in the traditional sense.
I was just wondering about the rocket.
The air was so thin that we needed thrusters to actually control its attitude so it didn't tumble, which one of them at the end did, and the guy died. So there's very little air up there, and so using things to use the atmosphere to create a force is very unpredictable, shall we say, and there's very little of it there to make a force.
So the rocket that went up in the higher altitudes, the one that everybody posts and says it hit the firmament, which I don't necessarily believe, but they said they put out some type of air brake, right?
No, it was a thrust.
Oh, so they put out a thrust?
No, it was a yo-yo D-spin.
So what is yo-yo D-spin like an air brake?
No, it's mass.
No,
it's a mass change.
It's what keeps it from spinning.
Yeah, yeah, but it stopped its momentum, right? Upwards.
No, it didn't stop its momentum upward. It stopped its spin.
So what stopped its upward acceleration?
Change of angular momentum.
Nothing did.
Gravity, you retard! Gravity.
Does anybody want to answer?
Play nice.
I did.
It went from hauling butt to dead stop, right?
No, it did not.
No.
Pretty much. I mean, when you look at the altitude indicator, it did.
No, guys, I asked the guys that launched that thing about it. So, I sort of know. The yo-yo D-spinner thing is an inertial, it's like a gyro inside it that sort of...
Understand how it stops the spin.
Its angular momentum has been altered via mass.
But how does that stop its propulsion?
You ever been spinning around and you put your arms out?
It's
spin around on a chair and you stick your arms out.
I'm asking what stopped it. I explicitly
Conservation
said I
of
don't
angular
believe that it
momentum.
did.
That's why.
So that's what stopped
the spins, okay?
And a
the
key
fins
point.
on it make it spin just like a bullet.
But he keeps saying He keeps saying it stopped its propulsion, and that is not the case.
It doesn't, but it looks that way because as it's spinning, the footage is obviously spinning, and it looks, you can see there is motion, and then it stops basically spinning somewhere at that peak of its upward propulsion. And because it's not spinning anymore, the motion looks different. But it is still going up a little bit. And if you see the end of the video, it stops going up.
More words, Sort. More words.
And
it significantly stopped going up.
Parachute, okay?
Well,
and
what stopped it?
have a bend on the nose.
What stopped it? If there's no air up there, what stopped it?
Well, what do you think stopped it?
I have no idea. That's why I'm asking y'all. What do y'all think? I don't know.
Everything in the atmosphere, everything near the Earth is constantly accelerating downwards at 9.8 meters per second squared.
That's
so.
But can you give them a simpler answer?
Gravity.
I gave the answer.
If the rocket stops thrusting upwards, why do you think it will just keep going on in the atmosphere?
Well, no, I understand that it would eventually stop, but this thing stopped abruptly.
No, I'm going to disagree with that. I don't think it went from like a considerable speed to zero abruptly.
Okay, well then we're probably not talking about the same rocket.
Yeah, what is the 2014 Go Fast rocket? Kai Michelson.
Yeah, you want to post it and play it? Let's look at the altitude gain and then the all of a
No,
sudden.
do you want to
change
do
in
something?
gain.
Go ahead, show me it stopping abruptly on gauges or whatever readings you said you had.
If it stopped abruptly from full speed, it would very quickly crunch.
I agree. That's what I was worried about. Even the stop the spin of it that abruptly would seem like it would put some twist on it, right?
This is not nearly the way that.
Well, it's the same thing, right? If something's spinning around really fast and you stop it, it's the same force.
You made a point. Depends on how that angular momentum was changed. What forces were used to do that?
Keep going. That's what I'm looking for. The force that stopped its upward trajectory.
Right.
In very thin air.
Right? You heard it.
Rakia, you did say that it stopped abruptly.
It seemed to.
Okay, well, you need to substantiate that claim, though.
Right, I understand, but let's say it did. What would do that in thin air?
Let's say it did. There's nothing on Earth that would suddenly stop a rocket going that fast and the rocket not crunch.
Okay, that's fair enough to say. I actually agree with that. What would stop it from spinning really fast like that and not twist it? Like in my mind, the same effect would happen.
That's what stops it. That's what that.
I told you already.
Is made for. It is made for when it deploys the parachute. It doesn't wrap the parachute up and come pummeling down. That is what the YOLO system is for. I just
parachute.
Yeah. The rocket thing you're talking about. I just posted in the link. I did an upload 5 years ago about this. It even talks about the system and everything in it.
So a parachute was deployed?
Yes.
In the upper atmosphere and it stopped it?
No.
Look, go ahead and hit that link. I'm pretty sure I remember putting the original in the description, but they talk about the system. They talk about that specific rocket launch and exactly why it did it, what it did, and they even show it once it's on the ground in the original.
Isn't it rotating counterweights or something like that, though? Not parachutes.
Yeah, it's a weird little system that sits in it.
That's the D-spin mechanism,
kind of
and I told you it's due to the conservation of angular momentum. When these weights are thrown outward, D-spin. It already was mentioned. Someone else already mentioned it.
I heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that.
These are weights that are connected to by cables to the rocket, and when they are ejected outward, that force, that change in angular momentum will then stop the rocket from spinning, rotating, because the mass has been thrown outward. The radius is now increased.
That doesn't stop its upward trajectory.
Yes, it stops it in its tracks.
No, not its upward.
Not
it's
in
a
its tracks,
rotation
but not
thing.
upward.
It's
Stop
not
the
just-
rotation.
Rakia is
Stops the
helping.
rotation. Almost.
Claiming the thing just came to a screeching halt.
Yeah, it was still
If it's
rotating.
spinning,
It's very
I'm asking
slowly.
if that stops it spinning or its upward
Stop the
trajectory.
spinning. It slows the spinning dramatically. And that's what you saw. If you
Look,
watch the video, you'll see the rocket going at a very high rate of rotation and instantly, seemingly instantly, slow down, where it's only going maybe one revolution every few seconds.
There might be
So
a clue in the name Yo-Yo D-spin. I don't know.
I'll say this again. I don't think it
that.
hit anything. Like, let me make that very clear. I don't think it hit anything.
Well, I've told you what happens. You just don't want to listen to it. So go
No,
ahead.
I'm listening, man. I'm asking questions. What are you talking about? I've already stated I don't think it hit anything. I'm just trying to find out how something would stop spinning.
You're in a chair and you're spinning, and you put
Question
your
has been
arms
answered.
out real quick. You will stop spinning. Like arms and legs out at the same time, you will stop your spin. Not stop it, but it will slow it down dramatically. That's what the rocket did.
First answer I was given was the gyro. The gyro had something to do with it and stopped it from spinning. Now I'm hearing that things on weights on cables, the D-spin was ejected, and that stopped it spinning. So
It's been a long time. Maybe some people misremembered some things and weren't exactly accurate. The Earth is not flat because of that.
So maybe people were speaking without knowledge, Curve?
It could be.
This topic in particular
Maybe
has been.
You're the last goddamn person to criticize anyone for that, Rakia.
Yeah, but when I asked questions and someone piped up like they knew,
I gave you the answer.
And Curved, I didn't hear you pipe up and say, "No, Xanax, that's not right."
I have a question about this.
Every rabbit trail of this has been explored like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'm about to put the system. I just took a screenshot of the system, and I'm going to put it in the chat so you see exactly what it looks like.
Is that you,
I have a
Sean?
question about this. The cable with the weights on the
Rakia.
end that spins, is that not a type of gyro, or is it?
No, it converts angular momentum.
What it does is it counteracts the spin. So it'd be like you imagine the spin being clockwise. I don't remember exactly what it was clockwise. Well, what it does at a certain altitude is it kicks the system and it pops it the other way and it stops the rotation.
Reduces it. And yes, anything rotating that has mass will have gyroscopic effects. It's not that far off the mark. It's one of the reasons they have the
Sean
thing
G?
spinning because of the gyroscopic effects.
Sean G, is that you posting that video?
It's been said yes 3 times.
Didn't hear it. That's Sean. That's not his name though. That's
It is his name. Click the name and you'll see that it says Sean G.
cool. I'm going to watch it. Thanks, Sean.
Xanax, you spin me right around, baby. Right around.
Like a roller coaster.
Oh, you were cutting out. What'd you say?
I was just saying, you spin me right around, like a record player.
Round and round we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. It's kind of this.
If you
chat.
see that video with the actual soundtrack, you can hear that D-spinner thing there clearly swirling up and being a mechanical thing. Is more or less like a disc that's being stopped by brakes.
You're talking about in the song itself?
Who posted the video? Is that Ryra?
Oh.
Who posted the video?
Hey, Sort, can you DM Nick and schedule a consultation and evaluation? I believe you're due, sir.
I could, but He could go fuck himself as well.
That's not going to look good in your file, sort.
Oh, there's that, but you already transferred my salary office to Nigeria, so there's that.
How are you privy to this information?
Well, it's kind of easy when those heritage from the prince and my salary checks come from the same mail address, isn't it?
Just looking for a security breach.
Yeah. There's that.
There is that. I wonder what we're about to add to the list of things that Rakia has no fucking clue about.
For a guy that talks a lot of shit, he really very often is confusing or compounding things that don't exactly go together.
Yeah, but do we keep a list? Isn't there like a little post with things he actually knows?
Supposedly there's a file on all of us. I'll bet you his file is full of things that just say bullshit.
But wouldn't it be easier to just keep that posted with things he actually knows? His name and stuff.
And about the only thing he knows is listening to a couple words someone says and then misusing them on a picture like he does with Soundly all the time.
Yeah. But that's not knowing. That's just parroting,
I have a question.
Anybody have a clue who this Q anonymous person is?
That's Lemon.
Come on, Curved. You're a mod.
This person.
I'm kidding.
It's a person who asked me to take angular resolution into account and it makes it to where he doesn't see far enough. It's a very weird person.
Very strange indeed.
You can't circle.
A question about plasma. Is it still considered a fourth state of matter, or has it been modified or scrapped, or what?
I'll DM Grim.
You listen to Grim, it's the only state of matter.
An ionized gas, electric, and
Do you even know about double layers, Cabouse?
Dude, double layers are
No, I only know about the double
That's how we have quantum crystals.
There's so much alternative science out there. So cool.
No, there isn't.
More on Lemon. Alternative science.
But were you asking if plasma is still considered a state of matter? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, I was actually wondering if it's still considered, or has it been modified or scrapped?
I haven't heard of any changes. Still a fourth state, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else hear of anything different?
Nope. It is.
Hey, so Kosho called for me. What's up?
Oh, what's up?
Why would he do that?
Kosho must hate us if that's the case.
Exactly.
It's over, Jake. No more argument. You're late to the party.
All right. Well.
Yeah, you're late. Go home.
Oh, that was Jake. God, it sounded like Dawn. I'm sorry.
I had the same thought. I felt bad after. Oh shit, that was Jake.
I was busy taking a COVID test.
Ah, God, really?
Oh, did they tickle your brain?
No, was it the blood one or the nose one?
Did you study for your test?
The nose one, and it's self-administered.
No.
But I stuck it pretty far back there. It's not real comfortable.
Why would you take the nose one, bro?
That's the only one that's offered to me, bro.
No, it's not. You should have taken the blood one.
This was
A lot of places are doing the blood test for people
drive-up one, so they don't take your. It's the easiest one to do because it's drive-up. You don't have to get out of your car or be around a bunch of sick people in a waiting room.
I mean, I guess. Was it uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's like uncomfortable for a second. Maybe if you're a bitch.
No, you know what I mean. Like, does it make you want to like fucking gag?
It doesn't make you gag. It makes you like
I don't know. That makes your eyes water. You know, like.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean.
Have you ever gotten water really far up your nose? That's what it felt like for me.
That's kind of what it's like, yeah.
And it's real embarrassing when you get a really hot nurse and then she pulls it out and there's a big fat booger on the end of it.
Don't worry, you really want to embarrass yourself, just tell them you're a flat earther.
There you go.
She'd prefer the boogers.
It's better that Jake was in his car, because if an earthquake hit, he'd be
I'm
fine
not in
to
my
drive
car,
away
you
from
fucking
it.
asshole.
I was talking about Jake. I wasn't talking about you.
I was worried about that. I was worried that would happen, but I checked the earthquake thread, and there was no earthquake predicted in my area, so I felt fine.
All right, cool.
Still waiting for that
I thought
7.0
sure
on the
hoped there was
7th.
an earthquake, but it was all good because there was nothing predicted. There was nothing on the books.
Nothing on the books.
Well, even if there was, you know that
No,
it's
just know
always
your
wrong.
elevations.
So.
No, just know your elevations and how far you are from the coast. That's all.
7.0 on the 7th, there was still a question out to you. I'm not sure if you ever answered it, was where that was going to happen.
What, the 7th?
The 7.0 on the 7th.
It's not going to be here.
I'm
today. I
not
just
jumping the
told you.
fucking gun, dude. Alright? I'm just saying that something's fucking coming pretty close on the 25th. And it's lining up with Southern California, Mexico area.
So the 7th one is off?
Caribbean area, fucking Dominican Republic area.
Hey, earthquake
You
guy.
know, North America, South America, something in there. Something in that area.
More like Southern California.
Hey, man, get used
Right,
to this
all of the
not
earthquake zones,
believing
right?
you.
A 2.0.
Yes.
There's going to be a 1.5 on California, man. Woo.
Dude, you can argue with me till the fucking sun comes up, bro. You know what I'm
Hey,
talking about.
earthquake man.
There's no arguing with you.
No, Rocket, there is. Because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't study this
You
shit
can't
enough.
argue against somebody who's spouting bullshit.
You don't study this shit enough. You're Rocket Man, you stay Rocket Man, and I'll just stay Earthquake Guy. And that's it, alright?
Hey, earthquake guy. Let me tell you something. Get used to them not believing you. Back in the day, this was probably, I don't know, it was months ago. I was telling them about this YouTuber called the Oracle, who uses, these certain readings to talk about Bitcoin, and he said that it's going to drop down 15 to $3,500, and we were talking about it on here, and sure enough, it dropped to $3,500.
Oh my God, Mr. Reality! Some douchebag managed to get a prediction right. Be nice if Earthquake could pull that off.
Well, this guy is now super